Adam, I figured you'd like that tweet of mine with the text because very much something you would do as well.
That's exactly what I thought.
I know, but dude, when I saw that you liked it, I was like, Adam liked this because he would for sure do the exact same thing.
Yep.
Like if they said yes to that, I'd be like, ah.
Yeah, exactly. But like you're offering, just expecting and hoping they say no.
Right, and I knew he would because he's that kind of guy. But I'd for sure do it. It's just one of those.
Right.
Things
Well,
where,
I mean, you have to do it once you put yourself in that position.
It'd be like, never mind. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by No House Advantage. Whew. 14 games to close out the week. I thought I was only here on Monday until Adam reminded me, or Jordan reminded me, that is not true. Filling in for Josh, heading into the Christmas weekend. It's the eve of Christmas Eve. We wish you guys the best Christmas possible. But first, I'm Dave Loughran at Loughran_D, LOUGHY_D on the Twitters, joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. What's happening, man?
What's up, man? Ready for a very cold weekend.
All right. Favorite Christmas movie?
We already did this.
No, what is now? You got off the top of your head.
So now, off the top of my head, it's Elf. Because
that's why I asked you. Yeah.
As of the last time we did this,
I know
I've watched that the thing about making Elf, and now that's the first Christmas movie I think of.
Favorite Christmas song?
I have no idea.
Yo, just check out the new Christmas album by the Eagles offensive line. I hate Christmas music. My wife always calls me
DMX Rudolph.
What?
DMX Rudolph, the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Check this out. It's amazing. It's everywhere. Apple Music, Spotify. It's set. My lot has got some pipes on them. Let me tell you. All right. 14 games. There's actually less pending injury news right now than I anticipated there would be for this many games.
Yeah. And we haven't gotten much during the day either. So I'm expecting it to just be like a shit show from 6:30 to 7 with a bunch of random stuff happening because that's how it goes. But yeah, we don't have a ton that we're waiting on here.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. We had people in chat on the NFL show today saying like they're in Ohio and it's minus 30 or something. And just insane how cold it is pretty much everywhere. If you're in this country and you're not in California, I was looking even at Key West thinking, I wonder what it's like for people going, down there for Christmas, getaway, 70s, 80s. It's like 50 degrees, overcast and rain, miserable. But we'll get right into this. We're going to head on all these. As is the case, as you can see, the sidebar is loaded. With these type of shows, when we got this many games, we're going to spend the time on the ones that we're going to spend the time on the ones that need time spent on them. The ones that don't, we'll hit on it. But generally speaking, there are going to be games in a spot like this that really just aren't as important. And we have to make good, efficient use of our time. So appreciate all you guys being here. Hit the thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Take a single second. Be in that Christmas, the giving spirit, and give us a thumbs up and a subscribe to the channel. It really does go a much longer way than you would ever imagine. So take a second, get us up over 100 as we kick this show off, and let's dive into it. Spurs, 6.5-point dogs at the Magic, 227.5 point total here. So this is one of those games where injury news is either there isn't anyone or anyone that's out has just been out for a long enough time now that it doesn't really make a difference. The Spurs, though, collectively, virtually unowned across the board, and we're going to see a lot of this when there's that many teams to choose from.
Yeah, and I think they should be. I mean, it's a decent spot here against Orlando. You have a relatively high 110 total for San Antonio, but there's just so many teams today that if you have a relatively healthy team, they're not going to look very good. This team in particular, I think that's the case. Jeremy Sohan pulling the most ownership on DraftKings right now, 3.5% at 4K. Sure, he's probably going to play 26, 28 minutes. You got north of 30 last night, but typically when he starts, he gives you mid to upper 20s. Jakob Poeltl at 6,200, I could see getting there in large field tournaments, just hoping that you get like a 26-minute game from him, but there's no shortage of good center options today, so no priority there. This team, with Keldon Johnson coming back, looks just wholly unappealing to me.
Do you feel similarly about Orlando now that they're definitely getting healthier than they were? They're not fully healthy, but they're a lot healthier than they were when we talked about this last week.
Yeah, I do feel similarly about Orlando because I don't know what their starting lineup is going to be today. They did say that you're going to have Gary Harris and Wendell Carter Jr. on minutes restrictions, so I don't know if they move Carter back into the starting lineup or not, but I think it's likely that you just get an even deeper rotation here. I think it's likely that Kevon Harris and Admiral Schofield both get kicked out of the rotation. But the issue is that Wendell Carter Jr. most likely plays more minutes than Admiral Schofield, and Gary Harris is likely to play more minutes than Kevon Harris. So I went 28 minutes on Markelle Fultz. I went 32 apiece on Wagner and Banchero. It just creates a situation where individually any of them are fine. It is still a good matchup against San Antonio. The pricing is decent on these guys, but I just don't feel as confident in their playing time as I did previously. So it's kind of, for me, a wait and see on this rotation. Right now we don't really have ownership coming into this team either. Fultz, Banchero, Wagner are the three that I would get to first. They're all pulling 4%. But again, I'm just expecting a deeper rotation here than we've been getting.
The next game, it's a pretty unappealing spot. I mean, you're talking about two teams in the Clippers and the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers laying 3.5 at home. 215 total, though. Tied with Cleveland and Toronto for the lowest on the slate. But aside from that, there's nothing below, 220 something? Like these are they're not just marginally the lowest. They're by far the lowest totals. You have two teams with right now top 4 defensive ratings in the league. Sixers are second. Clippers had the 4th best defensive rating in the league. But offensively, and the Clippers were like this last year, I'm sure it can turn around once Kawhi plays more alongside Chris Paul. But the Clippers on the season are the second to last offensive rated team. The Philadelphia 76ers, of course, they've dealt with injuries. But there's just, I mean, really low total here. It's no surprise that you're looking at a Clippers squad that's virtually, if you think that the first two teams we talked about aren't very appealing, this one may take the cake for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the first two teams, it was like, well, I'm not really that interested in either team. There's a few guys that, if they show up here and there or whatever, they look like decent enough plays. Maybe if the slate were smaller, they would look good. For the Clippers right now, nothing looks remotely close to good outside of like maybe $4,700 Zubats, hoping he plays 26 minutes. But, again, there's just so many centers on this slate. Nobody on this team pulling any ownership. Paul George leading the way on DraftKings at 1%. I have absolutely nothing here.
Yeah. There's really not much you can do with this team at all right now. Maybe that changes as the season moves forward, but as it stands, it's just an ugly spot. Should be a good game, just don't know if it's going to be good for DFS purposes. But what about on Philly? Like, I don't think Philly's as dire here. Probably a pretty short rotation. Again, big minutes for the starters. Still no Tyrese Maxey. But if you're getting to Embiid here, you're still paying a real premium for him, which I think is fair, but it's 14 games. How are you prioritizing some of these high-priced guys on a slate where probably a lot of times you'd be like, I think they're pretty good, but everyone in the league outside of two teams is playing tonight?
Yeah, exactly. So the Sixers are back to just kind of looking like a normal team where clearly if you get to Joel Embiid, James Harden, like there's nothing wrong with that. They're good plays at low ownership, but they are low owned for a reason.
Did I say Chris Paul?
Yeah, you did.
Of course I meant Kawhi Leonard in that spot. That's funny.
But like they're low owned for a reason. And the reason is that, when you talk about Embiid, you have Nikola Jokic for not that much more at the same position. You have a million guys in the 9 to 10K price range today that look pretty good, or even 10 to 11K. So it's just really difficult to say like, oh, well, I'm just like planting a flag on Joel Embiid because that would mean I'm giving up all of these other very similar looking plays. And the opportunity cost that comes with Embiid is really high as well. For James Harden, there's a little bit less opportunity cost, but he's up to 10K. He should play 36 or 37 minutes if this game's competitive, but there's, a million good guards on this slate as well. The guy actually getting the most ownership right now is Tobias Harris. And that's just because the forward positions are the weakest spots on the slate. But even that, I just expect to be paying down more at forward. And, that way I can pay up at the guard spots and or center. So, Harris, not a high usage guy when Harden and Embiid are playing, should play 35 minutes or so. But this is just another one of those teams where I think you can make a case for any of Embiid, Harden, Harris, Melton, but I don't anticipate prioritizing any of them.
All right, let's talk about Minnesota and Boston. We're getting through some of these lesser interesting games early, which is fine. We'll be able to dive deep into this and give ourselves plenty of time as we work into kind of the meat of this slate. With Minnesota, though, 10-point dogs against Boston. Of course, still no Karl Anthony Towns. I think you have to assume, even though he's questionable, Rudy Gobert should be active today after missing a pair of games and then coming back, right? Greg and I talked about that this morning. I kind of thought we would just get Gobert being listed as available partway through the day. Like they just submitted the wrong injury report. Yeah.
But so far he is still listed as questionable. I'm fully expecting him to play. Not only did he return last game, he returned and played like 38 minutes or something. So
yeah, he was fine.
What?
He was fine, unless he aggravated something.
Right. And he played like straight through to the end of the game too. So yeah, unless he was just like really sore after the game or something, I assume he's good.
I would think so too. Kyle Anderson, questionable too. McLaughlin, Taurean Prince remain out for this one. Assuming Rudy Gobert is active, though, what does it do for the Minnesota Timberwolves today?
Yeah, so I mean, assuming he's active, you get another reasonable center option in Gobert. But I think the most appealing piece to me is D'Angelo Russell at 7,200. He plays huge minutes without Jordan McLaughlin, and I think you're likely to get 35 plus minutes from him. We know that he's a solid fantasy producer when he's out there. Not a very good spot against Boston, and still not somebody that I would say I'm like just jamming into lineups everywhere, but he looks like the most appealing piece to me. If you want to take some shots on Jalen Noel at 4,400, especially with the way things look right now, like you said, we haven't really gotten injury news throughout the day. There is most likely going to be things that open up that look better than Noel, but if everybody who's questionable right now did end up playing, $4,400 Jalen Noel would look like a decent value piece getting, around 24 minutes here.
Yeah, and we got him at 10%, $4,400. I think it makes sense. If you're talking about Boston on the other side, Marcus Smart's expected to play. And then I think the only other spot here, right, is Robert Williams is questionable. So does Marcus Smart at a low 6K price point appeal to you? Does, does maybe no Robert Williams improve a $5,000 Al Horford? It's hard to get excited about this team.
Yeah, I don't think Williams should matter too much. I expect that you just get more Grant Williams and Luke Cornett playing if Robert Williams is out.
I was just thinking from a rebounding perspective, because we did see those numbers spike last year when he was out. But you're right. You're probably right.
Yeah, and I mean, they were playing some minutes alongside each other, but a lot, aren't. So
yeah.
I'm expecting it to be more or less the same. This is a spot where, like, there's not one guy that stands out. I do think there are 6 players on Boston right now that are basically correctly priced. Tatum, Brogdon, Brown, Smart, Horford, White. They're just all at price points where they pretty much look correct. They're all low owned, so they're going to be, reasonable contrarian pieces in tournaments. But again, like Jaylen Brown was, 8,200, 8,500 not that long ago. Now he's up to 9,500. Tatum's up to almost 11K. It's just so hard to point to any of these guys and say, that's the guy that's mispriced that I really want to get into lineups.
You would think so far that there's just nobody that's worth playing on this slate, because we haven't gotten to, I don't think we've gotten to any of those games yet.
No. And also, I mean, DraftKings, like, FanDuel's done a pretty good job on pricing for most of the season, really. DraftKings seems to just, like, every 2 weeks update their pricing. So you start getting these, like, really stale prices where, like LaMelo Ball is $8,300 and De'Aaron Fox is $8K. And you're just like, okay, well, it's hard to distinguish between these guys because they're all so underpriced. And then today it's just like, oh, everybody's $1,000 to $1,500 more expensive than they were. So you're having, like, the opposite issue where everybody just looks like correct.
Well, that's what they also do, though, is they do that in both directions. Like, where you'll have a team that has 3 players that are out for, a week, and then all of the other players that benefit from it see their salary spike.
Right.
Then those players return, and then the players that benefited from it that aren't anymore, price comes down like $100 every game until it finally levels out 2 weeks from now.
Right. Exactly.
It's nuts. And then you're looking at Toronto. If we want to move to this game against Cleveland, are you good to move on?
Yeah.
All right. Toronto is 4.5 point dogs, 215 total, lowest total on the slate, tied with the Sixers and the Clippers. You've got the Toronto Raptors now. The only real news here is that whether or not Gary Trent is going to play in this one. He's currently questionable. But would you be surprised if you ran 150 lineups and Toronto, along with the Clippers, was your lowest exposed team?
So the only reason I wouldn't be is that I would be is that I do really like Siakam, and I think I'm just higher on him than pretty much everybody, which is the case like every slate.
You wouldn't need to be very high on him at all to get over or you don't need much of him to get over the field, 10 times the field today.
Right. But I just meant even in terms of projection, like I have him projected several points higher than we do, and so I think I'm just going to end up getting to him more than the industry in general, which I'm perfectly fine with. The matchup sucks, but you're just getting so many minutes from him. He's averaged 1.35 DraftKings points per minute in the 19 games he's played with Fred VanVleet this season. I gave him 38 minutes. If this game's competitive, you're probably getting 40. So yeah, I just like getting to Siakam at basically no ownership. There's a lot of guys though that are going to be, that look kind of similar to him, but he does look very good. The rest of this team though, I have basically no interest in. It is a really difficult matchup against Cleveland as well.
I like the Siakam call though. I mean, the shot volume's through the roof, and there's nothing better than knowing that you have the built-in playing time. Like barring an injury, you're built in. There's 37 plus minutes every day with upside for 40 plus in regulation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hard. Even with guys this price, it's hard to see that. With a lot of them where you're paying a premium for them. So I think, and I saw people in chat mention this, I think there's a lot of people out there that might see like sticker shock when they see that price point on Pascal Siakam. But when you're looking at the playing time, the guaranteed minutes regardless, the short rotation and the usage recently, also he's getting to the line at a ridiculous clip as well. So
yeah. And again, I'm not saying like I think I'm just going to be jamming Siakam in, but I think out of everybody playing for the Raptors and the Clippers, he's the only guy that looks like, oh, this is actually a solid enough play.
Right. And he's also 0.7% projected ownership right now too. Granted, not exactly the easiest matchup against this Cleveland team. I mentioned Philly and the Clippers were second and 2 and 4 in defensive rating. Cleveland, number 1 in defensive rating for very obvious reasons. They've been elite defensively all season long, but on this side of the ball, if we're not talking defense, actually get into some DFS options here for Cleveland. Do you look towards Garland or Mitchell or Allen today, or is this kind of like a sprinkle them in type of spot?
Yeah, I think it's a spot where there's just like several guys that look pretty good. But again, like not much ownership coming into this team. Darius Garland and Jared Allen leading the way at 6%. Mobley, who's questionable, pulling 3%. Mitchell at 3%. But it's a decent spot here, 110 implied total for Cleveland. Allen, Garland, and Mitchell, these guys all should play like 36 minutes. Mitchell's been about a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy with Garland. Garland's been a little over a fantasy point per minute. Allen's around a fantasy point per minute. And again, just playing huge minutes. Played 39 last game. He's averaged about 36 since coming back from his injury. Evan Mobley with the Q tag, I think if he plays, he probably gives you 34, 35 minutes on average. He's only 6,400 with power forward eligibility, which is really valuable because the forward positions just aren't that strong today. So all four of those guys, it's kind of like Boston, I think. All four of those guys look good. None of them jumps off the page as somebody that I expect to just be jamming into 40% of my lineups or anything. But I think all four of those guys are good plays. Kevin Love coming in at 4,200. He played 29 minutes last game. If Evan Mobley is out, I do think you see increased playing time from Kevin Love. But if Mobley's in, I still just have a hard time expecting more than like 20 to 22 minutes from Love.
So how big is this piece of news for you then when it comes to Mobley?
It's huge because I think Evan Mobley is a good play if he's in. And I think if he's out, it benefits Kevin Love. It also probably benefits Cedi Osman, who's only $3,200.
All right. So we got a little bit of, we got some interesting bits here when it comes to the Chicago game. We can dive into this one. The Bulls against the Knicks, 225.5 total for this one. I had assumed the Knicks are 5.5 point favorites, by the way, but with Caruso out, of course, Derek Jones out as well. Javonte Green's doubtful, just giving you guys all of the injury news that we've got for them. But I had assumed we're getting around 20%. He's dirt cheap, Adam. Last game ended up playing 34 minutes. He's not exactly a stellar per minute player. And the more minutes he plays, the more he has to play alongside all of the other guys on this DeRozan, Levine. I remember last year when Dosunmu was putting up decent assist numbers, there were a lot of other players that were injured on this team and sidelined. So is the 3,400 enough, and whatever you're projecting as far as minutes go, to say, yeah, you know what, he deserves to be 20% owned against the Knicks today?
Yeah, I mean, what a slate. We're like 5 games in, and the first player getting 20% ownership is Ayo Dosunmu.
I know, it's gross.
Yeah, I mean, the way things look right now, the ownership makes total sense just because there are so many guys that we want to pay up for, and he's really cheap. He should start. He's likely to give you around 30 minutes. He's not a good point per minute guy at all, but he's just dirt cheap because of basically not being in the rotation recently after coming back from injury. So he's started 17 games this year where all of Levine, Vooch, and DeRozan have been in. He's averaged 0.72 DraftKings points per minute in 27.5 minutes per game. That's not good, but it's not terrible production either. So I think at that price, he's just easy enough to get to. Similarly, you have Kobe White, who's a bit more expensive at 4K, but he's also likely to play upper 20s in minutes. He's a similar point per minute guy as well. He's getting about 10% ownership, which I think makes sense. The one spot here that's interesting is Goran Dragic, though, at 3,100. I agree he should be lower owned than Dosunmu and White, but I think there's a good chance. Like, I have it projected 30 minutes to Dosunmu, 28 to White, 22 to Dragic. If that's the case, yeah, he projects, a 1.5 or so below Ayo Dosunmu and a few points below Kobe White, but I don't think he should be getting 1/10 the ownership of White, 1/20th the ownership of Dosunmu, especially because if you get a situation where Dragic plays well, he can take minutes from either of those guys.
I was just going to ask you that. I was just going to say, because historically, he's not a terrible per minute guy at all. I mean, better than these guys.
Right. Like, the only reason he projects behind them is because the assumption is that Dosunmu and White are going to play more minutes.
Yeah.
And I agree with that assumption, but I also think there's a lot of volatility there. Kobe White this year, 0.76 DraftKings points per minute, Dosunmu 0.73, Dragic 0.9. If he plays well and does steal minutes from one of these guys, it doesn't take a lot for him to end up being a good play. The fact that he's pulling 1% ownership makes him really interesting to me.
Especially when Dosunmu is almost 20%.
Right.
Hey, Dragic is essentially the dead min today, $3,100. That, I think that's a great point. I mean, okay, how about this? How many minutes are you projecting him for? I know that, and I totally agree, he could play more if he's playing well. I think that's more than realistic. How many minutes are you projecting him for you?
I have 22 on Dragic.
And how many do you have on Dosunmu?
I went 30 Dosunmu, 28 White, 22 Dragic.
Okay. Yeah, would it be crazy if they both played like 26? Probably not.
Right. And the thing is, with those, even with those minutes gaps, like I have Dosunmu by 2.5 points. I have White by 3.5 points. So yeah, sure, they're going to show up more in lineups, but it's not like we're talking a situation where, maybe Dragic plays more, but if they play what they're projected for, there's a 7-point gap. So basically, Dosunmu's just going to win 80% of the time if they play their projected minutes. If they play their projected minutes, there's still a reasonable amount of the time that Dragic is going to outscore Dosunmu.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great call on 1%. You're not saying you got to get 50% of him, just that maybe more than 1% would make sense.
Stephen Leibowitz said, if he's stealing minutes, do you think it's more from White than Dosunmu? I think it's from either one. They both suck.
Yeah. Depends on who's playing worse.
Yeah.
New York Knicks here. Brunson, Barrett, the usual suspects. Randall not getting much because I think, as you mentioned earlier, there's so many pay-up options out there. Hell, I mean, Siakam's getting less than 1%. Do you want to go into the mid-range for the Knicks today? Like, are you comfortable kind of living in the mid-range for the Knicks with Brunson and RJ Barrett? And of course, Grimes is questionable.
Yeah, especially Brunson. And that Grimes news is very big. We'll talk about that in a second. But Brunson in particular, 7,100, pulling 19% ownership. That makes a ton of sense to me. He's getting increased playing time recently. We'd seen Derrick Rose kicked out of the rotation, and Brunson's been picking up a few more minutes as a result. Last game, Rose was in the rotation, but that's because Grimes was out. So you still got a ton of minutes from Jalen Brunson. At only 7,100, he stands out to me as one of the best options that we have on the slate right now. RJ Barrett's a little bit different. The guy is playing huge minutes. And so I understand why he's getting some ownership. He's also Ford eligible, which we know that's not the most appealing position. I think projecting around 39 minutes is reasonable for Barrett. I have him projected to play the most minutes on the slate. But he played 45 last game. He could easily top 39 minutes. It's just that he's not a great point per minute guy, and he is nearly $7,000 and getting ownership. So I'm a little bit more hesitant to get to Barrett, but I do understand why people are playing him. Brunson to me, though, looks like a spot that I expect to be getting to for sure.
Anything else for the Knicks here that stands out to you?
Yeah, so Randall and Robinson, neither one pulling much ownership. Julius Randle's playing huge minutes as well without Obi Toppin. In competitive games, you're probably getting around 40 minutes. I projected him for 37. Makes him look fine. Like, the price tag has come up, so that's why the ownership is down, but I still think there's a path to him looking good with how many minutes he is likely to play. Mitchell Robinson's been playing 28 to 30 minutes typically as well at 5,300. But the reason the Grimes news is big is we saw Emmanuel quickly start in his place last game. He's $4,900. He played 34.5 minutes. It becomes a really interesting spot if Grimes is out and quickly starts. I would really want to pay attention to the ownership projection on quickly because with Julius Randle on the floor this year, Quickly has only averaged about 0.75 DraftKings points per minute. Without Randle on the floor, he's over a fantasy point per minute. His usage rate goes from 14% with Randle on to about 24% with him off. So you're getting a bunch more minutes for Quickly if he starts, but you are taking a big haircut in terms of per minute production for those minutes. So it creates a situation where if everybody's just going to say like, oh, well, Quickly kind of sucked last game, I'm not paying for him here, then I'll go there and just hope that Emmanuel Quickly has a big game because we know he's talented offensively. But if everybody just says like, oh, Emmanuel Quickly starting at 5K, need to jam him into 40% of lineups, it's definitely worth keeping in mind that he just doesn't do a lot when he plays alongside Julius Randle typically.
All right, let's go to Detroit and Atlanta here. You got the Pistons mostly healthy, not a ton to get into there. Clint Capella questionable on the other side. They're 8.5-point dogs on the road against Atlanta. 234 total here. Jaden Ivey, how about this ownership? 5,300, 20%. His last 3 games, he has really come on strong. I mean, you're talking about a 30% usage rate over that stretch. I understand it's a small sample, but it's also interesting when you're talking about a rookie because sometimes things just begin to click. But yeah, he's 33, 34 minutes over his last 2 games. Usage is around 30%. Fantasy points per minute or DraftKings points per minute, he's sitting at 1.17 over that stretch. He has looked good in this last handful of contests.
Yeah, and the thing that actually makes me most optimistic about Ivy here is that Corey Joseph got kicked out of the rotation last game. Amadou Diallo joined the rotation, but he didn't play as many minutes as Joseph normally does. So if this were a situation where Jaden Ivey had just played well for a few games and now everybody's jumping on him on a cheap price tag, I'd be hesitant to go there because you're still talking about a pretty inefficient scorer. And if the rotation were the same, it's just tough to give him more than like 28 minutes. But if they're going to change that rotation up and not give Corey Joseph those minutes, it makes it a lot easier for Jaden Ivey to get to 30 minutes. He's exceeded it in the last couple of games. But that's the really big change for me that makes me willing to get to him even at this ownership, is that I was able to give him a couple of extra minutes because I didn't project Corey Joseph to play. So I went 30 minutes to Ivey, 30 to Hayes, 31 to Bogdanovich, instead of like 28, 28, and 30. So it makes all of those guys look a little bit better, but Ivy's clearly the most favorably priced. He's been about a fantasy point per minute guy without Cade Cunningham. The spot against Atlanta is perfectly fine. So I like Ivy here. I'd been playing him when he was low owned and only playing around 28 minutes. So now that I can project him for a couple more minutes, I'm certainly still going to get there.
Okay. Is there anybody else here that stands out as a decent play? Like Jalen Duren is your typical. You're hoping he gets the points, rebound, double. Maybe he gives you the 15-14 like we saw against who was that against the other day? Utah. Atlanta, not the best rebounding team, not the worst. We're still waiting on Clint Capella. What are some other spots for Detroit that might stick out to you?
Jalen Duren does. He's only projected for 7% ownership right now. And I understand that because there are just so many centers in that range. I don't think he's like drastically better than Mitchell Robinson. I don't think he's drastically better than Steven Adams. There's a lot of guys in this range, but I do think Jalen Duren's a good play. He's started 7 games now. He's averaged 1.03 DraftKings points per minute, 29.3 minutes per game. I projected him for 28. That's pretty much what I always expect out of him, with 20 going to Marvin Bagley. The rebounding rate in these games he started is 24.5%. I think that probably comes back down to earth a little bit just based on his overall rebounding percentage this season being around 19%. But at the same time, you're talking about a very young rookie who is also likely just improving the more minutes he gets.
Right.
So, I think expecting it to kind of settle somewhere between that 19% and 24.5% makes sense. I have him projected as about a fantasy point per minute guy here, playing 28 minutes at 5K. Looks good to me.
Yeah, seems to make sense. I mentioned the other day, his offensive rebounding chops are solid. Like, this is the type of guy that as he progresses, we might be talking about him at the end of the season as somebody that you're getting to often, because I know you do too, but there's nothing better than these guys that can just haul in a ton of rebounds, give you some putback opportunities, some easy buckets around the basket, and then hopefully give you a few stocks along the way. Like, when you're getting him at this price, it's always worthwhile. I think you make some good points there. What about Atlanta? I do expect Capella to play here, but just throwing it out there that he's still questionable. Are there any clear priority spots for the Hawks today?
Kind of going to be no either way, but the Capella news obviously is huge because you could get Onyeka Okongwu back in the starting lineup after playing 1 million minutes last time out. But assuming Capella's in, it's a pretty good spot for him. I would expect him to play 28, 29 minutes at 6,500 and look decent. But the backcourt, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, certainly both two guys that I'm happy to get to in tournaments. That 10-2 price tag on Trae Young, it's another guy in that price range with Pascal Siakam. Certainly a better matchup for Trae Young. I probably do get to him a little bit more than I get to Siakam, but you're going to get a little bit more ownership there too, coming in at 6%. DeJounte Murray, we know that his point per minute production is good, but not great when he plays with Trae Young. But he's just been playing massive minutes immediately since coming back from injury, playing 37.5, 38 minutes. So at 8,700, I have some interest there as well. And then if Capella gets ruled out, I do think you would probably see Okongwu in the starting lineup. We saw John Collins start at the 5 2 games ago, and then Okongwu started last game against a bigger front court. Here you have the Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren front court, so I fully expect that you would get that same starting lineup. Going back to the start of last year, in games that Okongwu has started with Trae Young, he's averaged 0.83 DraftKings points per minute. He's averaged about 32 minutes per game. That's going to make him look like a pretty good value option. And then in tournaments, if you want to gamble on a pretty cheap play, I have some interest in John Collins. He was limited in his first game back, played like 20 minutes. He was expected to be less limited in his next game, but he only played 22 minutes, but he dealt with some foul trouble in the first half. his third quarter rotation, he played 10 and a half minutes to start the second half. He didn't close the game. They went with Bogdanovic over him. So I do think closing minutes are going to be kind of difficult to project with this team getting healthier, because you're going to have some games where they close with Collins and Capella. You're going to have some games where they close with Bogdanovic over Collins. You're going to have some games where they close Bogdanovic over Hunter or Capella. So you're going to kind of see volatility there. But if John Collins plays like 28 minutes, which I think is actually reasonable at 5,300 here, he's not like a slam dunk player or anything because his usage has been down this year, but no ownership for $5,300 John Collins against Detroit is somewhat interesting to me in your large field tournaments.
Julio G with a super chat. Thank you, Julio. Adam, do you set a rule for primary scorers like Durant, Irving, Levine, DeRozan, Butler, Adebayo, that if your lineup has one, it gives negative boost to the other? No. Keep in mind, I know you asked Adam, we'll get to Adam on this, but keep in mind, basketball is not like football where if you have two wide receivers without the quarterback, one of them scores, the other one gets nothing. Like there's still ways to produce with both of them to score on the same bucket, or from a million different statistical categories for the NBA. But go ahead and you can answer his question.
Yeah, no, so I think it's a good question. And I kind of have gone back and forth on it for a while, because when you get Durant and Irving in the same lineup, you realize you're kind of walking like a thin line where if they both go off, there's a good chance the game's getting out of hand. But I don't set that rule for a couple of reasons. One is that if they're showing up, if they just show up in a lineup here or there, I don't really care. Like if I get a lineup out of 150 with Durant and Irving, like whatever. If they're showing up just constantly, that means that even at their median projections, they just are both grading out as great plays. So I'm still not overly worried about it. And then the other thing, and it's something that I think people kind of focus on too much in NBA when they're talking about correlation, is if Durant and Irving both go off, there's a good chance the game blows out. But the flip side to that is a lot of times you just get games that go massively over the total. And if you have two guys, like if you have a game that is just playing at a faster pace than expected, or, refs are calling a million fouls and everybody's getting to the line more than you expect, that's good for Durant and for Irving. So I think that people tend to focus on the negative correlation that exists there and kind of don't pay attention to the positive game environment correlation. So long story short, I don't set the rule, but those are the reasons why.
For sure. Yeah, good answer. I think also too, there are some teams where there's legitimately just two players that do everything offensively.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like that. I mean, when the Nets are healthy, like Simmons obviously is playmaking, but if the Nets win a game like 110 to 105, you're still going to get some games where Durant and Kyrie both
do everything,
carry the offense.
Yeah. Right. There's a lot of teams like that. All right. But thanks for the super chat, Julio. Anything else for Atlanta, or should we keep it moving?
No, that's it for Atlanta.
I think we're making decent time here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games to go. We can make this work, right? 40 minutes.
Yeah. Just stop asking me about Christmas movies and Christmas songs.
What is your favorite drink around Christmas time? Are you an eggnog guy?
I've never had eggnog.
No. When I was younger, I was like, all right, that's good, because I didn't like love the taste of alcohol. But now if you enjoy the taste of alcohol, you're like, I don't want eggnog. Maybe I'll have some on Christmas and just spike the shit out of it. Like,
well, when you asked my favorite drink around Christmas, my immediate thought was like eggnog, but I've never had it. It's just like
just because it's like the Christmas drink.
Right.
Yeah, for me it'll probably be whiskey as always. It doesn't change.
Yeah.
Vince, much love, fellas. Merry Christmas. $10 super chat just to say that. Thanks, man. You too. Merry Christmas, brother. And Vargas, good to have you back, Lobby. Good to be back, man. Good to be back. If I am missing super, I think Tyler sent me one. Okay. Oh yeah, Devin Davis sent a super chat just to say we have over 1,000 watching. We have almost 2,000 now, but we haven't hit 150 likes. And then he has the emoji with like the looking or the spectacle. Yeah, I mean, okay, we're at 226. We'll get to 500. We'll easily get to 500 with 36 minutes to go here. I trust you guys are in the giving spirit around the holidays, and you'll make this happen. All right. And it only takes a single second. Subscribe to the channel too. Show us some love. All right. That's your gift to us. Let's keep it going here. 6 down, a lot to go. Milwaukee, Chris Middleton, not expected to play again. Who knows the severity of this knee thing right now? Probably a little bit concerning, but Giannis Antetokounmpo is probable. Any priorities from the Bucks?
Not really. I am interested in Drew Holiday here. Pretty reasonable price tag at 8,200 and just not likely to get much ownership. I think that he's just going a little bit overlooked here. Assuming this game's competitive, you're likely to get 34, 35 minutes out of him. He's averaged 1.2 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played without Middleton and with Giannis this year. Perfectly good matchup against the Nets. So I do like him in tournaments quite a bit. Obviously, I like Giannis too if you can get there. I think it's just a little bit like I think I probably get to Jokic and Luka before I get to Giannis when I am paying up. But again, good matchup. Likely to play an extra minute or two in this spot, just given that it's a 3-point spread. So I like both of those guys. I think I have an easier time getting to Holiday. Brook Lopez coming in at 5,400. Just another center in that price range with Duran and Adams and Robinson and a bunch of other guys that look good, but not great.
Okay. Brooklyn, it is a 230 total in this game, 2.5-point spread. Could you see this being one of those games that just soars over the total that you were talking about?
Yeah, I could kind of see it going either way because Milwaukee's good defensively and Brooklyn certainly has the ability to just absolutely shit the bed.
Like 100 to 98 or 130 to 127 or something.
Right. Or the inverse of the last Brooklyn game and you get Milwaukee winning like 140 to 80 or something. But
yeah, that's true.
This one does. It just has that feel where it's like it's going to be an appealing fantasy game. But the thing that sucks is that there's not a lot of favorable pricing. And, looking at the Brooklyn side of it, Kevin Durant's up to 10-7. Obviously, if you want to play Kevin Durant, go for it. But doesn't look any better and kind of, I think, looks a little bit worse than guys like Trae Young or Pascal Siakam at the same price range. Ben Simmons at 6,200 and Nick Claxton at 5,900 are both guys that I don't really know what to do with them. We didn't have Kyrie last game, so you couldn't read too much into the rotation. And then on top of that, you just got that massive blowout against Golden State. But in the previous 2 games for the Nets, Jacque Vaughn played 11 guys in the first half. The Nets got behind. Then he cut the rotation in the second half to 8 guys, and they came back and won. I assume sooner than later, you get down to a 9-man rotation here or a 10-man rotation where somebody plays like 8 minutes, whether it's Seth Curry or Edmund Sumner. But until they do that, you can't be super confident in the playing time for Simmons and Claxton. Still, I went to 28 minutes on Claxton. I went to 30 on Simmons. It makes them look okay, but not great. Kyrie at 8,700, I think, is a decent tournament option as well. But my favorite play from this game, I think, is Drew.
Okay. Joe Harris being questionable now. He just popped up on the injury report.
Yes.
That's really the only thing here. So it's not like we're waiting on anything really that significant anyway. All right, let's talk about Indy and Miami. Before we do, though, shout out to our sponsor, No House Advantage. I'm assuming there's still overlay, as always, Tyler, heading into this 7:00 game. Yep, always is. And I'd say it's by design. They want you guys to try the site out, and they're like, hey, we'll essentially give away free money in order for you to do so. Not only that, No House Advantage, the first match deposit bonus was $50. Now it's $100. They just upped it starting last night. First match deposit bonus is $100. On top of all of that good stuff, the fact that you have access for free to all of the tools that we have for No House Advantage over at Stokastic is a massive advantage, right? You got the Stokastic.com. We got the No House Advantage optimal lineup tool. We got the No House Advantage player prop projections. All of that you can use to build your lineups. And you're just doing the same as you would at DraftKings or FanDuel, except in this case, it's player props. There's no juice, just the over-under. You're building lineups. No salary cap, but you're playing against the field as you would anywhere else. The ones you like the most go at the top. They get the most points. Ones you're least confident in go at the bottom. They get the fewest points, like a value play pretty much, going with a punt down there. But you have unlimited access to everything you want. There is no salary in a spot like this. You can multi-entry, play it however you want. And they have the new format where if you can play against the house, different format. So they got different things over there. If you hit all your picks, 21x your entry. So massive profit potential over there. And what's the overlay look like? Are we still pretty far away? Wait, what are we at? How much? 25%? You got to set your mic up, brother. You got to set your mic up. I'll assume there's overlay. Anyway, check it out. Links in the description and in the pin in chat. We're 250 out of 1,200 right now for tonight. There you go. Check it out. No House Advantage, sponsor the Deeper Dive. Links in the description if you want to get that $100 first match deposit bonus and use all of our tools as well. All right. Next up, we get back on track here. We got the Indiana Pacers 6-point dogs against the Miami Heat. Adam, how do we want to approach the Pacers today? knowing that we have some guys questionable. Tyrese Halliburton is questionable. That seems significant. Aaron Nesmith is questionable as well.
So yeah, the Halliburton news obviously is huge. If he's out, you would get probably TJ McConnell sliding into the starting lineup at 3,200. You'd also get more production from Andrew Nembhard, who would take on a bigger playmaking role and look certainly much better than he does if Halliburton is in. Nesmith probably becomes, like, he could become several people. He could become O'Shea Brissett in the starting lineup. You could get Chris Duarte back in the starting lineup. They could go back to Jalen Smith, but he's just been the straight backup to Miles Turner recently, so I don't think they would go that route. You could get Mathurin. Like, there's a lot of guys that could replace Nesmith if he's out. But Halliburton, obviously the big one, because not only are you losing 34 minutes, you're losing a 50% assist percentage, a 24% usage rate. It just opens up a ton of production if Halliburton were to sit. If he plays at 9,300, he looks decent. Just another guy that is basically correctly priced, pulling like no ownership right now. Miles Turner pulling 7%, Nembhard at 4,200 pulling 10%. I'm not really there on Nembhard. I get that he's cheap, but you just have, assuming that Halliburton and Nesmith are in, I expect 28 to 30 minutes from Nembhard. He's only averaged about 0.7 fantasy points per minute when he has started with Halliburton active. It's not a particularly appealing matchup against Miami. Miles Turner's somewhat interesting at 6,600 just because you do get such a high ceiling from him. He's averaged around 1.2 DraftKings points per minute this year. Obviously a tough matchup, but likely to give you 30 to 32 minutes as well. And then we have Jalen Smith pulling some ownership, which, again, I don't totally get it. Last game, we did see him play the backup center minutes instead of Isaiah Jackson, which is good. But he didn't play a single minute next to Miles Turner. Turner just happened to play 26 minutes, so you got like 22 from Smith. I have it at 31 Turner, 17 Smith here. So it kind of does, like, I think you need foul trouble or something to Turner for Smith to actually look good.
Old Bravo Papa had a super chat from earlier. Do you think Austin Rivers keeps it up at 3,800, Adam?
I mean, I don't even know what Austin Rivers has done recently, honestly, so I don't know what keeps it up means. But it implies he's been doing well, so no, because that's Austin Rivers. Also, his playing time is dependent on Kyle Anderson. If Anderson is back, you're probably getting like 24 minutes from Rivers. If Anderson is out, you're probably getting mid-30s, so at least there's like a chance for him to produce. But Austin Rivers is around a 0.65 fantasy point per minute guy. Don't know what he's done the last couple of games, doesn't matter.
His last 4, he's been pretty good playing big minutes, but he's historically been a pretty low per minute guy who is entirely dependent on scoring. So
yeah, I mean, like if you're going to play, if you want to play him, you need Kyle Anderson out.
Yes. Yeah, he's played 37 and 36 minutes over his last 2. So
right. With Rivers, you need him to play a bunch of minutes and outperform his typical rates. If Anderson's out, you should get the minutes part, and then whether or not he knocks down a bunch of shots is completely, random.
Random, yeah. Miami, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, like those are the only spots that it was. Gabe Vincent has been out, but he might come back. I don't know. Caleb Martin questionable as well. Is Bam Adebayo the only playable option here right now?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't really like any of it right now if we assume everybody is in. Hero, Adebayo, Lowry, Butler, they all look pretty similar to me at their respective salaries, and that's just more expensive than I want to pay because this team hasn't really been healthy in a while. So, you have Hero up to 8,800, you have Bam at 8,600, Butler at 9,400. I don't really want much of anything from Miami, although it is a good spot against Indiana.
Just checking. John Wall is out. Okay. All right. And the New York Jets wide receivers coach Miles Austin has been suspended for violating the league's gambling policy.
Oh, nice. Somebody in chat said, "Isn't Nesmith out?" No, he's questionable.
Yeah, he's questionable. I said that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know Miles Austin was the wide receiver. Remember Miles Austin?
Yeah, Cowboys.
Did you know he's the wide receivers coach for the Jets?
No, I saw that notification pop up, and the first thing I thought was, "Oh wow, I didn't know Miles Austin was their wide receivers coach."
I had no idea either. That's kind of funny.
I wonder how much money he laid on Zach Wilson sucking yesterday.
Yeah, dude, he just put his whole salary on the Jags yesterday.
Right. Or just the unders on Zach Wilson.
All his receiver props.
Right.
Yeah, that would be, I'd almost respect it in a weird way. Yeah. It's all over after this anyway. Let me just get out. Let me just get out in the black. let's talk about the Pelicans and the Thunder then. Pelicans 2.5-point dogs, 230 total. If you're wondering why they're dogs, well, Ingram's still out. Zion is out in protocol. McCollum and Larry Nance are questionable. So I'm not sure if you have, and I'm not asking for a specific take here, but pick your brain a little bit, because this is the second leg of a back-to-back. McCollum coming off a massive game too. But do you think it's a real possibility that he could sit today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'd be questionable if it weren't. I don't have a good feel for this one because like he did play really well yesterday. Finally, played huge minutes, and then now he's questionable, and it's huge news because if he's in, he looks really good once again today. Even though that price tag came up, he's still underpriced at 8,300 for Brandon Ingram and Zion to be out. So he's going to look great if he's in. And then if he's out, you're just getting all kinds of value from this team because you're going to be missing the 3 highest usage guys on the team. You're going to get a really cheap Jose Alvarado, most likely playing a bunch of minutes. You probably get more minutes for a 3K Devontae Graham. You get, more production for guys like Trey Murphy and Najee Marshall and Joval. It just completely changes the slate whether or not CJ McCollum plays.
No question. Oklahoma City too. They play at a top 5 pace. I mean, it's a pretty appealing spot with a 230 total. What would you set it? Would you set 14 games? What type of limitations are you setting as far as how many Pelicans get into your lineups on a 14 gamer if McCollum sits?
If he sits, I'd probably cap it at 4, but like most lineups would probably have 3.
Okay.
Like I'm just trying to think it through. So like I don't have an issue. There's no reason that you couldn't have like Murphy, Marshall, Alvarado, Joval, but also I wouldn't like always want 4 Pels.
I guess the question would be if McCollum joins Zion and he joins Ingram on the sidelines. And of course we have live before lock coming up after this. So any news that breaks, we'll get to you guys in the event that happens then. How many minutes would you give to the starters in a spot like that? Because if all of these cheap guys are playing, mid-30s in minutes, you could make a good argument, sure, to play as many as you want. Not like 6, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go mid-30s on guys like Jones and Murphy. Marshall probably would get north of 30. Alvarado should play like upper 20s, low 30s. You get more minutes for Daniels too, probably. I mean, the whole team would just start to look really good.
Who would be your top 3 options if McCollum sits and if he plays? Let's break it down this way to make it. I know some people are overwhelmed. It's an overwhelming slate.
So if he plays, McCollum is number 1 for me. Murphy and so McCollum is 1. If Nance is out, Joval is 2, and Hernan Gomez might be 3 in that case. If Nance is in, McCollum 1. Some combination of Murphy, Joval, and Alvarado 2 and 3.
Okay. The type of game where Joval plays 25 minutes and has like 30 real points. I mean, it could certainly happen in a spot like that. How big is the Nance news?
I think it's massive because if he's out, so you still only got like 26 minutes from Joval yesterday, which was not a lot. But if Nance is out, I think you can project 26 to 28 minutes from Joval, and he certainly could play more. But then, and it's going to make him look very good at 6,300. But then you also get Hernan Gomez playing the backup center minutes, still 3K flat, 22 minutes yesterday, but it should just be 48 minus whatever Joval plays unless there's foul trouble. So Hernan Gomez, a very good point per minute guy, is going to look really, really good as the backup center. This is different than last slate. Last night I was fine playing both of them together. I ended up playing 100% Joval and then getting to like 25% Hernan Gomez. With this being a 14 gamer, I don't think I would play them together just because the true ceiling outcome is that you do get those 22 minutes from Hernan Gomez, in which case you're getting 26 from Joval, and I would just rather have a different center than Joval. Or if Joval plays 32, you only got 16 from Hernan Gomez, which probably isn't great. So on a 14 gamer, I wouldn't play them together, even though they are still both underpriced if Nance is out.
So with the Thunder, then on the other side of this one, a team unlike New Orleans that is actually healthy now, SGA, as usual, not getting the ownership he probably deserves, but on such a big slate, how do you prioritize a guy like that coming in at 7% right now?
On Jovel?
No, I said on the other side, SGA just as usual on these big slates, not getting a lot of ownership despite the consistent production. The weird thing about him though is, and maybe you can kind of reconcile this, despite the fact that he's very consistent, the ceiling games are less often than some of these other guys at his price point.
Yeah, and with
Giddey's
Josh Giddey back, it hurts him a bit, but he's still like a 1.4 to 1.5 fantasy point per minute guy. Solid matchup against New Orleans. Should see plenty of Herb Jones defensively, but don't care a ton about individual defense from a DFS standpoint. 10-1 is a pretty fair price tag. Should give you around 35 minutes. Healthy 117 implied total for OKC. Should be a pretty high scoring game. I really like getting to SGA, and I do like that he's only getting 7% ownership.
What about Giddey? He's right now, Josh Giddey and Lou Dort are the two highest owned players for OKC right now.
Yeah, Dort played 1 million minutes last game. He played like 38. I gave him 31 here. I still, don't trust OKC to just give him a bunch of minutes. And you did get OKC getting healthier. Trey Mann is back from the G League. We got Baisley back. He didn't play last game, but he is not on the injury report. So I gave him minutes here. I don't know if he'll actually play or not, but I expect a deep rotation from OKC. 31 minutes for Dort looks okay. 32 for Giddey makes him look okay. But SGA is the guy that I actually would like to get through the most here. I think Dort's just pulling some ownership because right now we still have so many questionable players that you don't know exactly where that value is going to be. But once it opens up, I do think the Dort's ownership comes down.
On the Dallas and Houston, I've been waiting to ask you about something here. And I should mention to you guys as well, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the show, and you hear us referencing the tools, whether it's ownership, the boom bust tool, if it's football, top stacks, whatever it is, player projections, the new lineup generator where you can late swap, you can export all your lineups to CSV, all that stuff. If you want to check it out for 3 days entirely free, go ahead and take advantage of that. It's in the link. It's in the chat that Tyler can throw in there. 3 free days. That's it. There's no strings attached to that whatsoever. All of our NBA tools for Stokastic Plus are available to you. You don't have to pay a cent. So if you want to get your foot in the door, check it out. Who knows? Maybe you've been burned by another site in the past and you got cold feet now jumping into these waters. You shouldn't, but I'd understand it because, people get traumatized by that type. They just get burned, but not here. And it's 3 free days. So you can do it all without paying anything up front. If you like it, stick around. If you don't, you know what to do. But yeah, all of our tools for NBA, everything we reference on the show, everything everybody uses to win money. You'll see it in the Hall of Fame segment in between this and Live Before Lock. Got you. 3 free days. Link is right there. All right. What are we doing with the Dallas side? The question I wanted to ask you is, at 2% ownership right now, at 12,500 on DraftKings, do you have any interest in getting overweight on Luka, just given the spot that he's in, given the ownership, and given the likelihood that we're probably going to have some good value on a 14 gamer?
Yeah, I'm higher on Luka than I think most people today. I'm a lot higher than our projections. So I think I'm going to get there quite a bit. He's my favorite pay up option. It's a good matchup against Houston. Luka obviously is great. He's like a 1.6 fantasy point per minute guy in an above average matchup. I really, really, really like Dallas today. This team is really shorthanded, and I think it's going like a little bit overlooked because a lot of the guys that they're missing aren't DFS relevant, but Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Josh Green is out. Jaden Hardy is out. Maxi Kleba is out. Kemba Walker is out. Yeah. Frank Ntilikina is questionable. Even if projecting Ntilikina in and giving him 20 to 24 minutes, I think you're getting a ton of playing time from the main pieces for Dallas. So I think you're getting 37, 38 minutes from Luka. Again, looks great. But then looking at the rest of these guys, we have 7% ownership projected to Dinwiddie at 6,600, 8% projected to Hardaway at 5,500, 8% coming into Christian Wood at 7,700. Wood started last game, only played 28 minutes. Dwight Powell played 20 off the bench. But I think if Wood's playing well, he probably plays more minutes. But also with Dallas even being more shorthanded here, I think you could potentially get a few minutes where Wood plays alongside Powell. It has happened this year. It's not like they've never shared the floor. And it's one way to just kind of soak up a few minutes without having to go to somebody like a Tyler Dorsey to, to soak up minutes. So I think you get around 32 minutes from Wood here. He looks decent. But I think you're likely to get about 36 minutes from Hardaway. I think you get around 36 minutes from Dinwiddie, who actually played 41 minutes last game. Both of those guys look pretty good to me here as well, and just aren't pulling ownership.
All right. I think, yeah, it makes sense. I guess, yeah, maybe it is the fact that you just have a lot of players on this team that you weren't going to roster, but their absence makes a difference when it comes to the entire complexion of this team. Where would you rank Luka among the top tier players today? Though not a specific, what, first? Wow. Yeah. Okay. So do you anticipate being way over the field on Luka?
Yeah. The way things look right now, like with him getting 3% ownership, I think I am. And one reason is that, and so this has to do with the pricing getting tighter on DraftKings. We've talked a lot about it being difficult to get to these pay up options on the larger slates, even where there is value, because, Luka at 12.5 is correctly priced, and you would be getting all these other guys like, Trae Young at 9,500 and, guys like that were really, really cheap. Fixing the pricing on the Trae Young, Ja Morant type guys and making them correctly priced gets you back to the situation that we're used to being in, where like going true stars and scrubs, I think actually looks a little bit more appealing. So that being combined with the fact Luka's not getting ownership, I think I'm probably going to get to a lot of Luka today.
Okay. Let's get to the other side of this one in Houston. KJ Martin, we got at 37%. We have Eason at 36% today for Houston.
Absolutely insane.
It feels like it, right? I mean, they're very cheap, but that is monstrous ownership.
The Eason one is insane, is what I meant. KJ Martin makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. But I'm saying currently the first and second highest owned players on the slate are from Houston, and Martin and Eason. Yeah.
I'm there on KJ Martin. Makes a ton of sense to me. 3,700. He's starting in place of Eric Gordon. He should play around 30 minutes. He's about a 0.8 to 0.85 fantasy point per minute guy. And it doesn't really matter who's on the floor with him. So he's not the type of guy that moving him into the starting lineup is likely to take away a lot of production, because he's not usage dependent. He's efficient. He scores around the rim. He rebounds well enough, gets some defensive stats. His per minute production doesn't really change a ton when he's with the starters. So he looks like a really good value. Tari Eason, I would think, is a really good tournament play if he was like 2% owned, because he's a really good point per minute guy. He's only 3,400. He projects for around 20 minutes. And if Jabari Smith gets in foul trouble or they change their rotation up and you get like 24 minutes from Eason, then he would look really good really quickly. But the ownership's insane. Like, we haven't projected for 24 minutes. I don't know why. I don't get it. He's played a little bit more recently, but if you go and actually look at those games, it's garbage time for Tari Eason. Eric Gordon being out has no impact on Tari Eason's minutes. If Tari Eason plays more minutes here, it's because they kick Bruno Fernando out of the rotation and they give Tari Eason or Jabari Smith minutes at the 5. The way that Houston's been running their rotation is that Şengün, Garuba, Fernando play the center minutes, and then Jabari Smith and Tari Eason split 48 typically. A couple of games ago, you got a couple minutes where Tari Eason played alongside Jabari Smith. If they do that, you can get a couple more minutes for Eason that way. So like, I projected 20 for Eason, 31 for Smith. That gives them 4 minutes alongside each other. Overall this year, Smith and Eason have played a total of 36 minutes with a center on the floor. So if you want to bank on that happening here and play a 40 or 30 or 40% owned Tari Eason, then by all means, go for it. Maybe it happens. To me, I think that's very unlikely. I think you're getting 96 minutes from those 5 guys. And so for Eason to get 24 minutes, you either need a blowout, or you need foul trouble to Smith, or you need them to change up the rotation. At 35% ownership, I'm fine just banking on Houston doing what Houston's done all season long, as opposed to saying like, oh, this is the spot they're going to change it up. And the other thing is they're getting guys back healthy. So they don't need to change the rotation and go back to the like Jabari Smith at the 3 lineup. You have Josh Christopher back. You have Ty Washington with the team. You might have Garrison Matthews back. So even though Eric Gordon's out, they're not shorthanded on the wings. They have guys that they just don't play. So again, like if he was not getting ownership, I think he was a really, really interesting tournament play. If everyone's going to just think he's playing 24 minutes here and he's going to be 35% owned, I'm just not going to be there.
Where are you going to get information? Where are you going to get a breakdown like that on Eason anywhere else? Not going to happen. Gray Hair Gaming with a super chat. Wood against his old team. Is there any revenge in play?
I mean, I think playing Houston is just enough reason to like Christian Wood.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think ever leaving Houston would be a revenge situation at this point. Anybody else for Houston?
Greg R said Jesse's going to be on full tilt when Easton has a flame tonight. I almost DM'd him earlier and was like, I hope this ownership is right because I want Easton to be 35% owned, but also I know it's going to result in like Jabari Smith fouling out in 10 minutes and Easton playing 38 or something stupid. As far as the rest of Houston, I mean, Jalen Green, Şengün, Porter, they're all always decent options, but this is a very slow-paced Dallas team, and they don't really stand out here.
All right. 4 games to go. Think we can make this? We got 10. I think we can. I think we'll make it to 500 likes too. Heading into Christmas weekend. 93. There's 93 people out there for sure out of the almost 2,400 people watching that feel like being generous today and taking a second and slamming that thumbs up button and getting us over that number, making quick work of it so we don't have to, beg coming into the home stretch. But Portland and Denver, Portland Trailblazers right now, 4.5-point dogs, 232 total here. Everyone on the injury report, everyone's probable though. So outside of Justice Winslow, who's out of this one, is this one of the lesser appeal? Not to say you can't get to them, but is this one of the lesser appealing teams for you today?
Yeah. Dame's another one at 10K. I do think looks pretty good. 4% owned. Throw him in the mix with Trae Young at low ownership, with Siakam at low ownership. In lineups where I'm not going to Luka, these are guys that I want to get to, guys like that. But outside of him, nothing looks great. Nurkic, 6,400. I have him in for 27 minutes. The upside's certainly there. He did only play about 22 minutes last game after being listed questionable. So I think that, again, he's a reasonable tournament option, but there's not much I like here outside of Dame if you can get there.
All right. What about on the Denver side?
Jokic looks good, but we do need to see what this starting lineup looks like. We had Michael Malone yesterday say that Michael Porter Jr. will be back soon. Could be today, could be next game. And that when he does come back, he'd be on a minutes restriction. Michael Porter Jr. followed that up immediately by saying he will be playing today and he will not be on a minutes restriction. So I don't know really what to make of that. I expect that Porter starts. I put him in for 26 minutes. That seems reasonable to me. You did see Jokic with just a lot less production earlier in the year when Porter was in. I think that is partly true, but I also think that we've just seen Jokic step it up as the year has gone on. I don't think you can account for the huge bump in production that we've seen from Jokic recently, where he's averaged 1.6 to 1.65 fantasy points per minute with Porter, 1.9 without him. I have a hard time attributing all of that to Porter because Porter's just not a high enough usage guy or a big enough, rebounding guy for that to be the entire difference. So I still think Jokic looks good here. He's my second favorite pay-up guy behind Luka. Jamal Murray, questionable. If he's in at 7K, he looks fine. Does take a little bit of a haircut in terms of projection, assuming Porter is back. But Jokic in particular, I think looks really good.
Okay. Desmond Bane could be back today for Memphis. So, and by the way, Capella's in and Grimes is in. So now we know. But Memphis, 2.5-point favorites, 226.5 total. No Devin Booker, Cameron Payne for Phoenix. Josh Okogie's questionable. But yeah, Desmond Bane participated in shoot-around. So it's possible that we could be seeing him back in the rotation today. What does that do, in your opinion, to Ja Morant now if Bane returns even in limited fashion?
I think it makes him pretty unappealing here. The price tag has come up too is the problem. And also you have to keep in mind with Morant, Memphis simply doesn't play him as many minutes as other guys in this price range. So while John Morant on a point per minute basis is still very, very good, you can't really give him more than like 33 minutes, especially with Desmond Bane being back. And my expectation is that Bane starts and plays like 24 minutes. I don't know though. I mean, it was it was a significant injury. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they bring him off the bench. But for now, I'm expecting him to start and just be on a minutes limit. But I do think it's a pretty significant negative for Morant. And it makes it so I would just rather be getting to guys like Dame or Trae Young, that play more minutes and can give you similar upside.
Is there a single priority for Memphis?
Not priority, but I do think Steven Adams looks good. He's pulling 5% ownership, and he's just another center in that 5K range that should play 28 to 30 minutes. No minutes limit for John Collins, no minutes limit for Quentin Grimes.
All right. How about in Phoenix with the limited backcourt without Booker and Payne?
Yeah, so it's a bump for Chris Paul. The salary has adjusted a bit, but no Cameron Payne, no Devin Booker means increased per minute production for Paul and also increased playing time for Paul. So still looks pretty good at 8,300. I think that he is a step behind CJ McCollum if McCollum plays, but if McCollum's out, it's easier to get to Paul. And even if McCollum's in, he's still a good play coming in at 16%. Similarly for DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges, you get a bump in usage for Ayton without Booker. You get a bump in playing time and usage for Bridges. So they both look fine as well.
Okay. Mobley's in as well.
Yeah.
So you good?
Yeah, just like I'm at like the end stages of that cold I had.
Yeah.
But I keep like just losing my voice all day.
I hear you. Mine's coming in and out at this point.
Yeah.
It's a very odd feeling. Let me ask you this just for the sake of expediting this to make sure we're out in time. Live Before Lock coming up after this. They'll take you all the way up to 7, so don't go anywhere. Those guys got you covered. If you were to prioritize Phoenix today, is it Paul, Bridges, Ayton, and then really not much else?
Yep.
Okay. Washington and Sacramento. So we got that news in the afternoon for Washington that Porzingis was questionable in this one. Denny Avdia is questionable too. If both of these guys, because right now, Washington does not look very appealing. Now they are facing a Sacramento team that will gladly oblige when it comes to high scoring back and forth affairs. They're 8.5 point favorites at home, but 239 total. What if Porzingis and Avdia are both out today?
Then you should get a similar rotation to yesterday. You do have DeLon Wright back. Rui Hachimura is surprisingly not on the injury report. I didn't think he was going to play today, but appears that he will be in as well. So if Porzingis is out, you should get another start for Daniel Gafford. Can play anywhere from 19 to 30 minutes, but he would look like, another center around 5K that looks decent. You would get increased usage for Kyle Kuzma and Bradley Beal if Porzingis is out. If Avdia is out, you get more playing time for Corey Kispert, potentially a little bit more for Will Barton, but doesn't move the needle nearly as much as it does if Porzingis is out, where Beal and Kuzma start to look a lot better in a favorable matchup against Sacramento, and you also get a still pretty inexpensive Daniel Gafford.
How good would Kuzma look if Porzingis is out, just given the size of the slate?
I think Beal would actually look a little bit better, but they would both look good. I think that like Kuzma goes from about a 25.5% usage rate up near 30%. Beal goes from about 26.5% up near 30%. So, I think they're both playable in large field tournaments if Porzingis is in. If you take Porzingis out, though, I think they actually look good.
James Malachek said, the fact that NBA regularly has 240 point total games is crazy. Yeah, I remember, and I'm sure you remember, there were games where we were getting like 189 totals between Utah and Dallas back not that long ago. Like, what was that, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe, that you were getting sub 190 games here and there? Yeah,
it was definitely within the time I've been playing DFS. So it's been since 2015, 2016.
Yeah, the times have changed. Now a low total is 215.
Right. Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll still have to catch myself. It'll be like, oh, this game looks good. It's like 110 to 105, and it's like, oh, this game is the lowest scoring game on the slate by like 15 points.
Exactly. Yeah, you got like 238s, 242s. It's nuts. Let's talk about Sacramento then. A team like that. Anytime they're on the schedule, you're going to see a pretty high total game. Doesn't always mean they're going to be popular. Domantas Sabonis, one of those guys, one of those 10K plus guys today against Washington, could be interesting just given the pace of this game and the potential for it to soar over this total. But is he one of the guys up top that you're looking to get to at a decent clip?
I absolutely love Sabonis here.
Yeah.
He's just been playing too many minutes to ignore. At the beginning of the year, he kept getting in foul trouble, and it was just like, man, Sabonis is producing really well, but he just can't play full minutes. And then now he's just playing 37 plus minutes a night. In competitive games, you're getting 40, 41 minutes from him. I went to 37. I don't really know how to go less than that here. I feel like going sure, if he gets in foul trouble, he's going to play less. But going lower than that to me just means you're ignoring the fact that he can play 40 minutes if this game's competitive. He's averaging over 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. He does everything well when he's on the floor. 20.9% rebounding percentage in the games he's played with Fox this year. 29% assist percentage. He looks great. Good matchup for him as well. I really like getting the Sabonis. It's easier on FanDuel since he's power forward eligible and not just center, but I like getting to him at very low ownership on DraftKings as well. Sacramento's tightened up their rotations a little bit as well. Trey Lyles only playing 6 to 7 minutes, so that has been a little bit of a bump in playing time for Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter. That said, none of them look like overly appealing options here. De'Aaron Fox's price tag came up, so if you want to get there, sure. But Sabonis to me is the guy that I think I'll probably get to the most from this team.
All right, let's wrap it up. Man, we pretty much did it. This is impressive. 14 games. I'm impressed. Last thing I'll let you guys know about, just for those, I know you guys already know this, but if you're looking for 2 free months of Stokastic plus Platinum, $240 value, all our tools, not just for basketball, but for every sport. So you'd have football tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, everything for basketball for 2 months, right? Like you get instant access to it after the bet settles. All you get, and it only takes like a minute and a half to sign up. Link in the description, and Tyler can throw it in chat. If BetMGM is available to you, you're literally just taking $10 or more if you want, $10, and putting it on any game you want, any bet, any prop you want. Just don't do an odds boost or anything. And once that settles, you're getting 2 free months of Stokastic Platinum plus Platinum, $240 value. Our Discord as well, everything included, every sport, all of our tools, and the new lineup generators for basketball and football, and a risk-free bet up to $1,000. So if that first bet doesn't cash, however much it was, $10 or $1,000 or $100, if it loses, you get all that back in free bets. It's as much of a no-brainer as possible. I don't need to spend any more time on it. So if you'd like to get your foot in the door and build a bankroll over at BetMGM on top of that, check it out. Link in the description and in the chat. All right, let's wrap this one up. Live before lock coming up right after this. Charlotte Hornets, final game of the night, 3-point dogs against the Lakers. 242 total here, but not a lot popping for the Charlotte Hornets. And I should point out that Terry Rozier is questionable. Yeah,
so Rozier's questionable. If he returns, I don't think it changes too much. Like, it kicks Kelly Oubre back to the bench most likely, but it shouldn't affect rates all that much. LaMelo's up to 9,800 on DraftKings. He's still got a ceiling there. I mean, he's coming off of a game where he just scored 63 fantasy points. But one red flag for me with LaMelo this year is that his rebounding rate is basically cut in half from last year. I think it's likely that over a larger sample, it does come up. But he is also playing a lot more minutes now with Mason Plumlee and Nick Richards on the floor, guys that can actually rebound, than he was last year when the Hornets were typically playing smaller. So I do buy into his rebounding percentage coming down a little bit. For people that like narratives, there is one in play here that I think actually could be a thing. LaMelo got like 37 minutes last game at the Clippers. Even in a blowout, they brought him back when it didn't even seem like he'd come back in the game, and he played a lot of the fourth quarter. They're still in LA. I don't know. I mean, I can't really think of another reason why they played that rotation the way they did, other than he had a ton of people there. So maybe his minutes are a little bit safer here than normal, but still projecting him 35, 36 minutes. He looks fine. Not much ownership, but there's a lot of guys that look pretty similar in that price range. Hayward's playing a ton of minutes. Not a very good point per minute guy, but it is a good matchup. PJ Washington's pretty cheap at 5,300. Similar to John Collins, I think, as far as low owned cheap power forwards, but nothing that I'd prioritize from the Hornets.
All right, Rudy Gobert is in, so we have that news as well. Pretty good stuff today. What do we got here? Kyle Anderson, a game time decision. Let's wrap it up, man. LA Lakers, kick it off with LeBron James here.
Yeah, LeBron looks like a very good pay-up option. 10,900, small forward, power forward. Favorable matchup against Charlotte. Playing without Anthony Davis, he's averaged about 1.5 fantasy points per minute. He should give you 35 or 36 minutes in this spot. He's just going to look very good. Like getting to him where I can. I think that Thomas Bryant is a strong center option at 6,100. Good matchup going up against this Charlotte front court. I have him in for about 28 minutes here. Certainly could play more. Wenyen Gabriel backing him up most likely. I think plays around 18 to 20 minutes. Russell Westbrook seems to be getting slept on a little bit. He's probable to play. He's 7,600. He's been very, very good from a fantasy standpoint off the bench. He's averaged about 1.3 fantasy points per minute without Davis on the floor overall this year. He's probably playing around 28 minutes here, maybe a little bit more if he plays well. 7,600, I think he is going a little bit overlooked in tournaments.
Merry Christmas, guys. I'm off tomorrow and I'm off Christmas. Not working Christmas Eve or Christmas, but we got a ton of NFL content. We'll have the shows live before locks, the full slate of shows tomorrow, and then on Sunday, and then for Christmas Day basketball, we'll have that as well. So we got you covered. We got people on it, no doubt about it, working all through the Christmas weekend. Show them some love tomorrow if you're hanging out for these shows. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Laffy_D. You guys have a Merry Christmas. Stay safe. Get drunk too. And thanks to Tyler for producing this one. We'll see you back here on Monday. Peace. Yo, it's that time of week again. And it's a special time of week. It's the holiday season. We got Christmas upon us. Hanukkah's happening right now. And that means we're giving some stuff out, like some Stokastic Plus Platinum memberships, putting people up in the Hall of Fame here. And all you got to do to get involved is download the Stokastic profile picture at stokastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins at StokasticHOF on Twitter. You want to get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum? You want to get inducted into the Hall of Fame? That's how we do it. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and boom, you're in. Let's get started on what we've got going for this week. Some big winners, starting it off with Clem822, Michael P. Clement to be exact. Thank you guys. Best tools in the industry. Special thanks to Player Q DFS and Draftaholic. Look at that. Top tying himself with $4,700 on each of them. Huge win for Michael. Next up, we're talking Trafalgar Law. It's easier to say Louis with the $15,000 win. One shot hit. Thank you to Josh and Eric for the Kessler pick and all the advice from everybody else. LFG, huge win, Louis. Congratulations with solo shot, just straight single bullets across the board. And D Fick with a $2,000 win. Thank you, Mac Ajeski and Stokastic, for my best college finish to date. And then you got, this is the big one. S. Schaefer. Stokastic is fantastic. Took first and 6th. Thanks for providing the tools and the commentary to bring home the big win. Props to Greg Ehrenberg and Gundacker for the pre-slate show. Pre-lock breakdowns are essential to my process. Chalk up another one for the Stokastic Hall of Fame. $100,000 win. 6 figures for Schaefer. Huge win, man. Congratulations. Remember, download the Stokastic avatar at stokastic.com/avatar. Tweet your wins at Stokastic Hall of Fame and win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame right here and let us do the bragging for you.
Trending. Let's see what's up. All right, good.
This music is kind of fire.
All right, Stokastic. Here we go. It's your old pal EMac with the one and only Gundacker. This is a reprisal of No House Advantage. Said that afternoon show these guys did was so good. We want to run them back. So sayonara, Eric Lindquist, Zippy get the shippy, and third leg Greg. He's out in the cold somewhere in New Jersey. His power's out. Allegedly. I think he's goofing around tonight. Gun, we get a whole 90 minutes here. This is going to be like a relaxing, luxurious walk through a 14-game slate. What do you say about that?
What's up, chat? Yeah, so nice we had to do it twice. Waiting on some news. It feels like I'm not waiting on as much news as I should be on a 14-game slate, but I am sitting on pins and needles for CJ McCollum because I do think his status will shape a bulk of my lineup. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in the next hour, and we may not get it. So we'll see.
Yeah. So for those of you following along at home, we've got big contests over there on No House Advantage, $15,000 prize pool, 5K up top. We've got free projections for all of their formats. We'll talk a little bit about that. The 14 games in play, 2 7:00 games, 5 at 7:30, and we're going to stay on the air through 7:30. So we will cover everything that breaks for at least the larger portion of the slate here. We'll get you through almost half the games. There's a 8 o'clock 8 o'clock has a couple. There's 1 at 9, 1 at 10, and 2 at 10:30, or 2 at 10 and 1 at 10:30, something like that. But everything's spread out. No basketball tomorrow, right? Association's taking the day off. Then we get the 5 Christmas Day games on Sunday. Tomorrow, technically, it's NFL Sunday on a Saturday. So we've got a whole bunch of NFL games tomorrow. We got you covered with the usual shenanigans on that one. Not the wee little shenanigans, but the big old DFS shenanigans. And then Sunday, there are 3 NFL games. So we're going to have an NFL deeper dive show covering those. And then, of course, we will be breaking down that gigantic prize pool anyway, 5-game NFL or NBA slate. So we got all sorts of goodness here. Hockey's taking a couple days off. So this is the last big day with everybody playing for hockey. They usually take off through Christmas. So your mileage may vary. And then EPL is going to be back, right? Because World Cup, it's over. Hat tip to Argentina. The fun thing about all of these, you want to get in on the good stuff, sign up through No House of Edge. 1, you get a new deposit match up to $100, right? That's just like getting a free month of Stokastic. 2, you can come in through our BetMGM promo. We'll talk about that. But if you don't have an account at BetMGM, you can get 2 free months there, directly 2 free months, in addition to your first bet being risk-free up to $1,000. I did a $1,000 risk-free bet. Tell you how that played out a little bit later in the show. Spoiler alert, I will tell you how I'm attempting to use my free bets that I got after the risk-free bet did not come through. Darn you, New York, for not overturning that Las Vegas touchdown. And then we've got 3 free day trial down here. If you look in the description below, so it'll tell you how you can get in. If you're not already a Stokastic member, you can get 3 days risk-free to test drive things. All right, Gun, let's check out the tippy top here, and then probably we'll have some news coming in. Normally that's a phrase people don't get to hear. You already heard me say tippy top, I think, twice on the last show that we did earlier this afternoon. But this time we are talking, instead about No House Advantage rankings, we're talking about the players up there with the high fantasy point totals. For me, it's going to be Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic are the 2 that I am trying to get into a majority of my lineups. I'm going to play about 100 lineups tonight. I've got my 1 lineup over there on Yahoo. Those are the guys I like. Secondary option I like, Domantas Sabonis. We'll talk about my love for him. It knows no bounds. But what are you liking here at the top? You've got, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander somehow sliding through the cracks. You have a whole bunch of action going on the East Coast there with Milwaukee and Brooklyn and who else is there? Philly. All kinds of excitement. What do you got for us at the top here?
Well, to be topical,
I see what you did there.
Topical. There's a lot of topping going on. Wait, I don't. Okay, it means something different in where I'm from. Anyway, hey, we're
not talking about scissoring either, right? You're cutting that top. Okay, we're not.
Oh my God, is this what you and Greg do when I'm not here? Holy cow! Giannis Antetokounmpo just got rolled in. Middleton confirmed out. That's a 230 total, and it's a very rare Giannis underdog game. So if you're ever pessimistic on the amount of minutes Giannis plays, well, here's a positive game script for Giannis to play deep minutes. Push back here. Brooklyn's full strength. They got some bodies: Claxton, Simmons, Durant, Royce O'Neal. So there's better chance for the Nets than most other teams to slow him down. But I still like the thought of a high usage Giannis Antetokounmpo that we can project for max minutes. And he's a guy that's top 3 in our raw fantasy point projections right now, 57.6. So that's marginally lower than Doncic, decimals. And he is gaining just 5% ownership, 24% boom percentage. So there's some merit into getting to Giannis Antetokounmpo, and just thought it would be topical since that news just dropped. You mentioned Jokic, you mentioned Luka. I do love Luka. I think Adam sold me even more on the deeper dive, talking about how the Mavericks are short-handed, not so much on usage guys, but minute eaters, and Houston being such a positive matchup. So I was already kind of digging the Christian Wood revenge, but I'm in on Luka as well. And I hate to be cookie cutter with, hey, I like all the 12K guys, but I can't really push back. And more so on a 14-game slate, the lineups tend to end up being studs and scrubs anyway, just because of how much value opens up. So I'm going to play the studs, especially if they're going to come in at the ownership that we're looking at. Luka in the boom, but I'm looking at 4% ownership, 5% on Giannis. That's ridiculous. So I'm gonna have fun spinning the wheel and making deals with those guys.
All right. So the 12K players at top, kind of what we want to point out on that. And the news is going to come in, and that's going to guide us to walk through some of this other stuff. You really should not be playing any players you're not comfortable with tonight, especially at the top, right? We've got a lot of choices. Everybody has a slight tick against them. I wrote up Jokic as sort of my play of the day in the free DFS building blocks and picks article. I'll drop that link into the YouTube chat. But oh boy, nice job, EMac. You're picking the guy's 2-time reigning NBA MVP, who also is averaging 24.7 points, 11 boards, 9.2 assists, 2.2 blocks and steals, 62% success rate on 15 field goal attempts. Doesn't matter if Nurkic is in or not. We love this one. The only challenge, hit the knock against him. Hey, wait a second. He's got center only eligibility. Power forward, not power forward, but so you can only play one of him on FanDuel, but DraftKings and Yahoo, we have the utility slot. I kind of countered that by saying on FanDuel, go with Sabonis as well, because you can get him at power forward there. We only get him center only on the other side. So those are two guys I'm trying to get into my lineups, or my main lineup, at least on Yahoo, probably the main lineup on DK. And then I'm going to let the value kind of feather in where it goes. The other opportunity for doing some building is to take one of those 12K players and then move down with a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, someone of that ilk, perhaps Kyrie Irving's kind of down in that range, etc. You get two of those guys, and all of a sudden you might be a little bit different, especially on the lower end. You might not have to go with as many extreme punts as those players putting in two of them, and you can probably find some differentiation that way. So we should not be playing anybody who's uncomfortable, and two, we should be able to be avoiding some of the differentiation here. And then, I see, turn the heat on. It's like it's 12 degrees here right now.
I wasn't even looking. I didn't realize you literally have a blanket on.
I have a blanket on overweight, my DK sweater,
wow.
Which I'm wearing on a long sleeve t-shirt, and I'm wearing slippers as well. So
I feel like I should pour you an extra ladle of soup right now, bro.
Well, I did have a little sip of my Mucinex before the show, so I'm feeling a little warmer from the neck up right now. So I'm not feeling very well. So here we go.
Oh my God,
we have all sorts of fun here for me. So yes. That's the kind of where we are. It's cold, baby. It's cold outside. Don't live by that song. And that song is not as bad as some other songs. So anyway, so that's where we're saying parse it out at the top. There's a lot of ways to go. You can find the built-in differentiation. You don't have to go with the super expensive guys. Go with one of them. Take somebody on that near tier down below, and all of a sudden you're looking at a $4,000 or $5,000 player where everybody else is going with the $3,000 or $4,000 player, and you can get some differentiation. Next question. The heck's going on with Houston? Why are we still as fired up with the Tariq Eason as we were earlier today? I kept when I was doing my article this morning, I kept waiting for a refresh because I'm like, this guy can't be this high owned. There's 28 teams in action here.
Yeah, maybe sometimes we I would say underestimate the field's intelligence at times, but that projection is pretty crazy, and it's just one of those projections that on a slate like this, any bench player at that type of percentage, I'll stay away from. But yeah, that is one of the more diabolical numbers on the slate that I'm just anti on, just to be different and set a stand. But yeah, last update, we still got him at 36% ownership, and that's crazy.
No, Cheyenne. No, I'm saying, baby, it's cold outside. Good song. Blurred Lines, perhaps not.
I think that song got canceled, EMac.
Hey, what? Get the fifth. Come on.
I get different time. I get it, but it got canceled.
That's terrible. I remember when it came out on the radio back in 1951. It was a good song.
Oh God,
it's a good song.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see. EMac plays injured, still puts up a triple double. No, not really. not really. But thank you. I appreciate the confidence. And then Demetrius says, we haven't said anything about DFS yet. Yeah, we just told you how to play the top end of the slate. That's going to be the most important decision points because the fish, we're all going to be schooling as soon, one way or the other as soon as these value news comes out. So we showed you here's 2 different ways you can build your lineups differently. Got to find the little treats within this and then get behind the paywall. I already told you how you could accumulate 3 free months. You can get 3 free days if you haven't signed up already. That gets you access to all the tools. So you're not having to sit through, a glorious nearly 3 hours of NBA to get all of the little juicy tidbits that come in through here. Now they're saying who is the best value play of the slate. I do not think they have availed themselves yet. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm hoping that I'm just going to load up on Pelicans, which is kind of lazy. But considering that they could be without McCollum, possibly without Larry Nance, and already without Ingram and Zion in a matchup against the Thunder, I'd open up a lot of minutes and a lot of fluff for guys that are going to be underpriced considering the matchup. So that's what I'm waiting on. If McCollum gets rolled in, I won't completely hit the panic button, but I'm sitting on guys like Herb Jones, Guillermo Hernangomez. If we lost a Nance, I think projects as a pretty decent value with opportunity. We saw him drop 30 last night in like 20 minutes. That's been what we've seen out of both of the Hernangomez's when they get a chance to assume usage. J-Val's the same thing. So I'm going to be leaning a lot on the Pelicans for quote unquote value, not necessarily all the 3K specials, but guys that I think are underpriced for their potential roles tonight. That's why I want the McCollum news ASAP, Rocky.
All right. ASAP, Rocky, nice call out there.
I'm impressed. Let's go, EMac.
Every now and then, I have moments. So then I fade back into senility. I'm kind of sundowning right now. Of course, second shortest day of the year, right? So, and by the way, Alzheimer's, no jokes, does run it through my family, so I'm not making fun of that or dementia. But
yeah,
I've seen my course charted. So enjoy it while you can, folks. Enjoy it while you can. Shout out to Wayne Ingersoll just for being amazing.
Yeah,
that's all. Teddy Wayman says, is Mitchell in play as a pay-up option today? Let's go take a gander over at that. I do have Yahoo open. I believe Teddy plays over on DK, but I just want to see, looking at the matchup. I do like him on Yahoo. He's going to come in as let's put it this way. He's that second tier option. If you want to go with the star and then roll with him, Toronto, not great on defense at this point. Toronto, a whole bunch of the same guys, and now they all got sort of paid. Toronto's a mess. We know what they are. Enjoy that championship. Don't even get me started on the Wizards. That's a complete non sequitur there. I can't even talk today. I'm going to get another cough drop here, but I'm okay with, let's talk about the second tier. Who do you think is the second tier right now? For me, it's Sabonis, Irving, Lillard is going to be in there. I would say Mitchell is in there as well. And Ball, LaMelo.
So is this a Yahoo question on Donovan Mitchell?
No. It was just, what do you think of that overall? I just happened to have the most updated information of mine was uploaded in my Yahoo Fantasy Cruncher. I'm now going to upload it back in DK and FanDuel.
Yeah, I think on a 14 game slate. I mean, Donovan Mitchell at 9K and such a ridiculously low total comparative to the rest of the board, 215, and what projects to be a slow paced game. That's a hard sell for me. It's not a guy that's fallen a lot for me, if at all. I would be pushing back. I'd be going for other guys in that price range and faster paces, faster totals. But you got that feeling in your bad knee with the storm coming in, EMac.
You want to throw a couple out there?
For
you see as potential alternatives in that mid
position.
Secondarily, go with the backcourt and do DK. I'm going to upload FanDuel because we got a super chat coming up here. Top 5 cash play, so I'm going to upload my FanDuel stuff now.
Yeah, I think if you're cracking open that 9K price tag, guys like LaMelo Ball, we mentioned in a much juicier total. Fun narrative out there in LA in a positive matchup make a lot of sense. You could get down a little bit cheaper, justify a guy like Kyrie, who's just confirmed in, no minutes restrictions, unlike that, against a competitive game against the Milwaukee Bucks. I've been finding a lot of my lineups so far have been pinching pennies with 5K guards. I did a test crunch before we went live, and my highest owned guard on DraftKings was shaken out to be guys like Brunson, Chris Paul, Josh Giddey, who I think is cheap enough. So I'm using a lot of my big pay up positions and big pay up money for the forwards, for the centers. And I'm not really investing in a lot of these high dollar guards because I think we're just going to have so much value. But guys like Luka would be priorities. But again, at his ownership, 4%, ridiculous. I don't have to go crazy. I don't have to get to 30-40%. So I'm not using the guard position tonight as a die on this hill at 10K, 9K spot. For me, that's going to be the small forward, power forward, center spot.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm going to put out a few. We're switching to FanDuel here, a couple cash game plays. So I always like to sort by a couple ways. Point per dollar is a good one. We're seeing Herbert Jones look solid. He qualifies at shooting guard and small forward. He's coming in at 5.6 points per 1,000. I would stay away from Thomas Bryant tonight. I like the matchup. It's 6,100. We can put up our dukes over that one. God, we'll have a good old prison fight on that one in just a sec. So I'm kind of staying away from that, burning my center spot. I'd rather go a different direction. I don't think he's a bad play, and we want to target players against that Hornets front court. Absolutely. And I think he's appropriately priced. He's not the steal that he was before. I think he's perfectly fine. I just have my eye on a couple others. I think you're going to look probably at Najee Marshall as well. We already know that Ingram's out, and those guys are only going to get better on the Pels if CJ McCollum is out. The other way you want to kind of sort it is to popularity. Hey, guess what? It just so happens those two are number 1 and number 2. I'd probably throw in KJ Martin as well. He's 4,200. That's about the only reason I'd really want to play him there. He has a reasonable floor. Getting to his upside, hit or miss. We're going to have to see what happens with Dallas and how they play this game. Typically, they've been playing at one of the slowest paces in the league, but as Gunn pointed out, they're missing a lot of their key players. That could change how they play, but the ball's still going to be in the hands of Luka for 40 minutes tonight. How much can it really change if that's the one constant? And then Spencer Dinwiddie was the other guy I kind of like because you can get him at shooting guard over there at FanDuel, 6,500. Those are the FanDuel plays I liked. Do you want to add to any of those, or are we going to have to fight over Thomas Bryant?
No, I guess I'm higher on Thomas Bryant than you are. I'm
trying to find some disagreement, man. Everybody loves everybody on these shows.
Death, taxes, and centers against the Hornets, man. That's gonna be a rough sell for me to look past a 6K guy against that matchup. So, and a lot of the centers that I do want exposure to tonight, I can get away with putting them in a forward spot. Obviously, selling out for Jokic and B guys like that could truly win the position. And we've already kind of discussed Jokic's ownership. It's very, very marginal considering how big the slate is. I'm going to be in on those guys, but I see a lot of stocking stuff for 25-35% exposure to Thomas Bryant in my future, just as a get me over 40 plus fantasy points fastball. And I think it's very possible in this matchup. But if he doesn't win the position and a guy like Jokic nukes it with like an 80-90, sure. But great thing about 14 game slates, multiple ways to skin a cat. And I don't know. I guess I'm on Brian and you're not. But no prison fights. I'm undefeated in those, EMac. Don't come at me.
Hey, so am I. I've also never won. But oh wait, lover, not a fighter, not a prison lover. No. We're not going to say. We're gonna on to the next thing. Hey, did you know diet soda equals aspartame equals Alzheimer's? Says Aaron Hines. Not aware of that. As Gunn takes a big old swig off of his energy drink there. I've stopped drinking soda. So I have probably had maybe 10 total in the last 2 years. I drink a lot of cold brew now in the mornings, but I totally gave it. We don't even have it in the house. I don't buy it. And when I get it at the store, like if I get a combo meal, I just ask for a water. I'm just like, can you just, and they're like, oh, but then we got to give the bottom, just fill a cup of water. Then I'll take that. I don't want the soda anymore. Shocker from someone who used to have 8 to 10 a day. Well, it's not addiction, Gun. It's dedication, devotion. Yeah.
We have
Michael McKinney 5 must plays on FanDuel Cash. We just hit on those, but rounding out so play a couple of the Pels. I kind of like Dinwiddie, even though he's not super cheap. At the top, for me, it's going to be Jokic, Doncic, and LeBron James because you can get him at small forward as well as Sabonis. That'll kind of round up both of your guys' questions there. Hopefully that gets you what you were looking for. King, FCK, and Dash, welcome to the show. I think I missed one here, scrolling up. I think we're good. We got there's a yellow super chat. Here we go. My filler arc. I knew my filler arc would put something in there. He always does. It says you have to be a degenerate to play 14-game DFS days. Yes, someone does, but it's always someone who picks a rando like Bobo or Tail Maladin. So for Showdown, Ball or LeBron. First off, put those hands together. Try to get them both in that lineup, and I'd still go LeBron on that one. And I think you want to play Thomas Bryant in Showdown. Look at that, Gun. We changed the parameters, moved the goalposts, and now I love Thomas Bryant.
we're ripping up the format. I'm in agreement there. I think the stabilization on a LeBron James is worth more to me, just because Melo, one, is a foul-prone guy when he's out there, and the fluctuation of pop games from Terry Rozier and Kelly Oubre. So yes, I would prefer that, but that's when the nuances of ownerships will come into play. I would assume LeBron comes in higher on that, but I haven't dabbled in the 10 p.m. Showdown stuff just yet. I'm trying to manage the 7 p.m. lock.
Yes. So let's see. I see we got a super chat here. We just got a projections update here. So I'm now going to turn my attention over to DK. I'll keep my Yahoo up because I still got to build my one Yahoo lineup I'm in a few of those leagues where you have to play like every day and you drop your like 5 lowest scores. It's a lot of fun. There's one person in there. It's like his name's like a Steeler fan or ABC. I don't know who it is, but I swear to God, they win every day in our 50-person league. It's amazing. Rarely am I ahead of them. So if you are watching, kudos to you, good sir or man. All right, uploading the old DK stuff here. So they're asking, give us some 4 to 5K plays. So I do most of my DFS over on the old DraftKings. So popping up kind of similar plays. Herbert Jones, who I really like. KJ Martin, 3,700 on DraftKings. There's an argument there. I can see why we're doing that. His last 3 games, let's just assume that's a reasonable output for an 80th or 90th percentile outcome. 31, 19, 24. Not going to kill you, but it's okay. Doesn't really get those spike games, but doesn't always when everybody is healthy on Houston, which is kind of like they are now, with the exceptions of Jayshawn Tate and then Eric Gordon. It's hard for these guys to really get those extra minutes like we saw when they were playing super shorthanded last year. I don't know. We've had Jalen Smith high all day. He's 3,800 on DK, power forward and center. There are other plays I like. There are other slates you go to Jalen Smith. This to me isn't one of them against Miami. Oh, we didn't talk about everybody's in for Miami, I think. Was the other news. Robert Williams is out. Haslam available. Woohoo! Jimmy Butler. Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, all good to go. Jayshawn Tate out. Kyle Anderson out. Larry Nance and McCollum still questionable. Goran Dragic available. Caruso's in the concussion protocol. Caruso feels like he's been in the concussion protocol a couple different times. It's kind of scary. So's Brandon Ingram. I'm all over the place. This is now the that Robitussin's kicking in. It's pretty
witching hour.
I notice I'm not as congested anymore. Feeling a little warm. I'm about to slide the little blanket off here. All right, we got a good time going on. Anybody else there in that 4 to 5K range? Then we got another super chat we will turn to because it's your type of super chat.
Oh boy, that's a DraftKings centric.
DK.
Yeah, the 4 to 5K. Herb Jones is the guy that's just popping for me. I know he's going to come with ownership less than, or at least projected less than Eason, but still makes way more sense to me and would make even more sense if we do lose McCollum. Unfortunately, the blurb that we just got was no news. There's no news for McCollum and Larry Nance, so I'm just kind of waiting on
from the Department of the Redundancy Department.
Ooh, okay.
Borrowing one of yours. I used that at work the other day. Everybody brought the house down. I like, it's not mine. You don't know who Gundacker is. It's not mine.
No, one One of my idols is Stuart Scott. He used to use it, so I use a lot of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I think Herb Jones would be somebody that's really not super contingent on CJ McCollum. I still think I get the Herb Jones a lot, no matter what, just on the absence of Ingram and Zion opening up a lot. But certainly feel better if McCollum's down in terms of his ceiling. But yeah, Herb Jones in the 4K range is probably the guy that's my favorite on DraftKings.
All right, I see someone asking. I'm going to look up Austin Rivers pro basketball reference. Is he intriguing? So how old do we think Austin Rivers is? I'm going to say 35. He's only 30. Well, he plays like he's 35. All right. He has been in the league for 10 years. Looking at his numbers this season, marginal at best. He's averaging 10 fantasy points per game. Last year, he averaged 10 fantasy points per game, but that was a half fantasy point per minute. This year, he's averaging 0.7 fantasy points per minute. Kind of garbage would be the way to do it. And if you want to go look at his per 36 numbers, a hot mess. He's shooting 48% from the field right now. He's a career 42% shooter. He is shooting 41% from three-point range. That is 50 points higher than his career average and 40 points higher than any of his best last 7 years. Don't play Austin Rivers. If you got negative salary cap, would you use a spot on Austin Rivers?
I like Austin Rivers, but I don't like him as a DFS. It's more of a real life. I like the guy, but I will not be getting to Austin Rivers right now, even if he started.
Gundacker, this one's for you. Steve McGee, 20-month membership chat. Thank you, Steve. Bowl in the utility or Ivy? He's looking to get different. Jaden Ivey has been playing so well. Wendell Carter Jr., I believe he's back, right?
I was gonna say I'm probably gonna lean Ivy there.
I think so.
Pluses for Bowl in terms of having just an atrocious defensive matchup, but the Magic are more healthy today than they've been in a while, and that front court is just really saturated, whereas Ivy's a guy that we know has a bit more usage against a positive matchup, positive game script. They are 8.5 road dogs, but that's Detroit Pistons basketball, so my lean would be Ivy. You certainly are getting different, but also make sure that you specifically said util spot. Make sure your lineup is chronologically set. Maybe not like locking a 7:30 Jaden Ivey or 7 p.m. Bowl is a great start to begin with in the util spot.
All right, here's the question for you. This is from Cyber Real Estate. Who is today's road warrior play? In a world without rules, in a world without civilization, fuel, chaos reigns. Who is your road warrior play of the day?
What a rush.
Wasn't bad.
Oh, different road warrior. Anyway,
they say pass the Tussin. Oh well, I guess I could have gone the road warrior. They were like way class. They were class. Was like when I watched wrestling when I was a kid. The road warriors, right? Or at least in high school, anyway.
Rest in peace, both of them. So I just grabbing the word road warrior. I'm assuming you were looking for a road player. I would say Christian Wood back in Houston, a little bit of narrative, just a super positive matchup. And we talked about some of the absences in that front court, Maxi Claybaugh down, and a guy that is going to, I'm not a narrative guy, but there's a little bit of narrative here. So I like Christian Wood as the road warrior guy that maybe we're not there.
All right. Fantasy Guru 76, $10 says, give me your best 3 FanDuel tournament plays. So we've hit on the value. We've hit on this. Here's where we want to spend on. Who are your tournament plays? Now, we don't have really super duper chalk to avoid. I'm buying you time here, right? Because 14 games, right? So you don't skip anybody 30% or above, or if you have them, then pick a couple that are below 20 and then feather in whoever you like. There'll be differentiation available for you in that methodology. But what do you got as your 3 tournament plays on FanDuel?
So, I mean, a short process I would do for that is, hey, who can drop 60, 70 at the lowest of ownerships? And just looking at some of those potential candidates, we've got, Jokic at a 30% to boom percentage at 7% ownership. We've got Joel Embiid, 23% boom percentage at just 2% ownership. I think J-Val is going to rise. I think Thomas Bryant, those guys are going to rise in ownership, and I love them. But if we're just specifically trying to set a criteria of what makes a great tournament play, guys that can drop 80 at single-digit ownership, I think is a good start. So I'd be looking at those type of plays. Luka does carry a little bit more ownership on FanDuel than DraftKings, but it's still 7%, and it's borderline criminal considering the matchup and the avenues to get to some of these high dollar guys based on it being 14 games. So I'd be starting at the top. Usually I don't start at the top, but I think on a 14 game slate, when you're getting multiple single digit guys in ownership that can drop 80, I want to go there.
All right. Malakar, who runs Bartertown? If you know, you know. Who runs Bartertown?
Who runs Bartertown? Let's see. Auntie Entity? I don't know what this is.
That's it's 2 men enter, 1 man leave. It was Thunderdome. So it was Mad Max Thunderdome. Bartertown was the town that Tina Turner thought she ran, but it was really Master Blaster that ran Bartertown.
I have no idea.
Just put it out there. There we go. David Correa got it. Andrew Melman got it. Yeah, there we go. You guys got that. If you know, you know. No?
I don't know.
BetMGM. BetMGM matching deposits up to $100 with that initial deposit bonus going through our link below us here, and that will be available to you. They have their contest out there tonight. Play with confidence points, 10 questions. You get to choose from about 250 player props. You go higher or lower. Those are static props. You rank them with confidence points, 10 through 1. You get the over or under correct. You get those points. Those points go against everybody else in the contest. That becomes your score. These are GPPs. Overlay is the name of the game. Probably going to see at least 30% overlay tonight. You're really going to see overlay tomorrow on NFL when everybody forgets that it is not NFL Sunday, which is happening on Saturday, and it's the holidays, and kids are home, and look for overlay tomorrow. Be smart about that. They also have versus the house. So if you live in a state that does not have sports wagering, but you do have no house advantage, you can build out player prop cards, very similar to same game parlays and such on the other sites in the sports books, but you can build out player prop cards 2, 3, 4, or 5 questions. Get all 5 right, up to 21x, highest payout in the business. Those are the key things about them. We got 19 minutes, and then we're staying on for an extra 30. So we'll talk a little bit about BetMGM and the free or the risk-free $1,000 bet. Reminder again, hit that like button. It helps us out so much. We do appreciate it. And then, of course, if you have not yet signed up for Stokastic, what are you waiting for? Go into the link below us. We got a lot of links below us. Click that description. Open that up there on the YouTube video page. If you're on your phone, you may want to wait till you get to your desktop to do it, although some of you folks do some amazing stuff with mobile devices. My wife now says I don't need extra memory because she said all you do on your phone is check sports scores and listen to podcasts. You don't need the fancy phone and you don't need all the memory. And then she upgrades hers to the best of both worlds. So interesting how that works. I have to think about this. I have to think about it. It feels like I'm getting screwed somehow, but if you never use it, is it really losing it? Probably not. But check out our risk-free 3-day trial. You get all NBA all the time for 3 days. You get the NBA DFS projections, ownership projections, 1v1 player prop, the lineup generator, and you get into Discord for that one. So definitely check that out. All right. Did we get any more news sliding in? Questionable Frankie Ntilikina, Isaac Okoro starting. I forget who I did a show with. I said some bad things about Isaac Okoro. I think it was with Lamarcus. It was on 2 Sundays ago, maybe. Said some disparaging comments about him. And then he had like the game of the season with 12 points and 5 stocks or something. But I was like, friends don't let friends play Isaac Okoro. Don't play Isaac Okoro. I don't even want to play Isaac Okoro in Showdown. Lamar Stevens moves to the bench. Let's see anything else popping up. Let's see if we get any other questions here. Ooh, now we're talking about Waterworld. This is good. Hank the Tank says, get this dorky ass geezer out of here. Ooh, this one's for you.
Ooh.
This one's for you. I'm going to go work on the Red Dragon tomorrow. All right. I'm just saying, if I got a little time, I may have to go to Home Depot and No thanks. I don't need any lemonade. I got my beer. My beer tastes so good on my lips. Right there. Does that work? Did I hit enough old school things? You're my boy, God.
Yeah, I sometimes lately in my life, I've been feeling so old, and you make me feel so young, EMac, and I appreciate this. So thank you for being you.
Old school came out like what, 20? I'm waiting to see the old school at 20 or old school at 25. It's been a long time. Oh, good times. Good times. All righty here. I see. Oh, if you're not in the old Stokastic sports wagering chat, you guys can check that out. I just got some updates there from Ben Rossa. He's putting his bets in his channel. Eric Lindquist has a ton in his, talks a lot about Prize Picks as well. A lot of fun over there on Prize Picks. So all sorts of goodness in there for everybody. Best point guard and shooting guard under 5K on FanDuel. Okay, let's talk about anybody who's not the Pelicans. Play the Pelicans wherever they are. Now, let's talk about best on FanDuel. I'm now going to load. I see somebody must have got riled. Somebody riled up NewsGod in chat. NewsGod's like my personal enforcer. Nobody messes with NewsGod. And then NewsGod had to pull the enforcer card on me like 2 years ago. I was putting some news in chat and I got it wrong. And then it was corrected like 30 seconds later. And NewsGod popped in and he said, EMac, this is why only NewsGod posts news with the all channel blast. And I said, you know what? Taking the hands off the wheel for the rest of time.
EMac, he was
still remember that day, NewsGod.
EMac, he was banning the guy who was talking crap about you in chat.
Oh,
and also,
wow.
that was a hidden message, and you read it out loud. Like, no one else in the chat saw it,
Yeah.
so everyone was really confused about what you were talking about.
So
Nice.
what's the question? Under 5K guard?
Under 5K guard or shooting guard over there on the Dueling Fans, as my buddy Dean Shavelson would say. Dean, 7890210 if you want to get all technical.
You make a list. Yeah,
Malik
I don't
Monk.
Yeah,
Malik Monk
Monk's-
is popping.
when you add the stipulation that they can't be on the Pelicans, Malik Monk's the guy that's dropping the most for me. But I have a lot of Pelicans, so
Yeah, and you want to get a little wonky. Jeremy Sochan qualifies at small forward. I think that you can maybe find somebody you had at small forward that's shooting guard eligible to do a little flip. Anthony Simon.
I think you could take a chance on one of the Chicago guards. Ayo Dosunmu is a little bit more intriguing with the absence of Alex Caruso, but it's no warm and fuzzies there. But that's only if we're specifically trying to get away from the Pelicans guys. I'm on the Pelicans guys.
All right, let's see. Anyone hating on EMac deserves to be publicly executed. Thank you, Sean P. Sean P. Still the only person I had my wife made a T-shirt commemorating. There you go. There you go. Victor Melendez. Yeah, NewsGod checked me on Discord too. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. You only learn. You just need one time, and you're like, okay, I'm staying in my lane.
Everybody gets one. Spider-Man. Everybody gets one.
Yes. All right, that gets smoked. Oh, I love this ball enough. And unfortunately, we live in a world with a salary cap. True story. True story. Just coming back. How do you feel? I can't do Colby White. Anybody that projects for less than 20 points, even as you're starting to, I need somebody to give me 25 projection, because that means half the time you're approximately 40% of the time you're going to be below that. And what's your ceiling? 29 is your 85th percentile outcome there for Colby White when everybody's healthy. Yes, and I know Alex Caruso's out, but yeah, scary. Okay, 13 minutes to go here. You think we get anything else tonight?
Probably not before the first.
So let's quickly go over the first game. So San Antonio at Orlando. Wendell Carter coming off the bench. Jalen Suggs is out. Jakob Poeltl is good to go. I don't anticipate getting anybody from that game in my lineup. I'm actually not even going to build lineups with the first two games, at least on DraftKings. The second one is Philly. We know John Wall's out. Tyrese Maxey close to a return. Probably will be back around January 1st would be my guess. Maybe we see him a game before that, but I don't think so on there. Can Jeremy Sochan repeat last night with Keldon Johnson back? That's actually a good question. The Keldon Johnson being out kind of opened up a bunch of stuff. You've got Zach Collins there, Pirtle's healthy again. There, you got Keita Bates-Diop bouncing around there. They got a lot of bodies at the moment. And then you got Greg Popovich, who's good. And you get 22 and a half minutes, and you get 24 and a half minutes, and you're my favorite. You get 26 and a half minutes, right? It's like, it's not a lot of upside.
I mean, my lean would be no because of Keldon Johnson being back and because the matchup's a little bit different. The Pels were certainly very short staffed last night with a lot of their interior defense. This time we're 20-minute sprints on decent bigs, and we're not expecting him to be a 20-point scorer. So my lean would be no, but I still think he's cheap enough to have in the player pool. He is falling for me, but if his ownership got too high, I'd bail out. But he makes more sense to me right now than Easton.
All right, I'm looking. I thought somebody said a super chat slipped into the ether. I'm not seeing it. If you had one there, apologies. I'm now focusing so much on this. As I mentioned, I'm not scrambling to upload my lineups here. I will during the 7 to 7:30 hour, but I'm not doing them right now. And I've got everybody in my later games. I already have my hockey lineups and all that stuff. But on a slate like this, I want to make sure my focus is on the news and I'm not screwing around with my lineups. Plus, I thought until Greg's power went out, I figured, it'd be Greg. Greg has a lot more volume in play than I do, and this is kind of his primary source of income. This is not my primary source of income. It's my primary source of fun. The side hustle's nice, but we are there. Okay, there we go. We got. Yeah, I think we got those two, Tyler. Thank you. Here we go. I think it was Effect XMD. If you had a specific one, let us know. I see the one you just put in. Has CJ been ruled out? Or are we still waiting? We're still waiting on that. So we'll have to see. What about Fultz? The team's kind of getting a little more healthy. It's like Detroit's hard until they start screwing around or sitting people down. When you start to get enough people back to get a 10-man rotation in, it's just like a minute or two away from everybody else. When you get down to that 9 or start running a tighter 8-man rotation, like especially as we get towards the playoffs or into the playoffs after the first round, they're doing 8, 7.5-man type rotations. That's where you really see the minutes coalesce. When there's so many other people available, is there somebody that wasn't feeling great that we didn't know about? Was somebody having an off night? Is somebody trying to, whatever? We could see somebody lose 7 minutes and not even know why. That's where it gets a little tough looking at somebody like Markelle Fultz. By the way, go University of Washington. I do like Markelle Fultz, just not for DFS tonight. EMac loose off those meds. No, I get the Dayquil version, right? Or what? I'm terrified now. Is there alcohol in this? I can take one of these every 4 hours, it says.
Okay.
So I got the Devin Vassell, the Vaseline.
Oh my God.
Somebody want to look that up on the net. Tell me, is this good? And I said this on the earlier show. I put the Dayquil or the daytime version in here, the nighttime version of the bedroom. It's green and it's blue. I'm like, what's green mean go and blue mean stop or something? I like the NyQuil where it's orange and not orange when you buy the dupe back there. 9 minutes to go here. No sizzup for me. That would just be gross. Jokic and Randall. You have my heart at Jokic. I really like Randall. Or LeBron and Pascal Siakam. I'm leaning towards the first one. I think it's like a 55-45. I would lean towards the first one.
Yeah, I would as well. I do love the thought of Siakam. I'm actually signed with Adam a lot. Should my money when it comes to projecting Siakam this past week. I've had people say, why do you have him projected for this much? And it was like the other night I projected him for 50 and he dropped almost 60. It's like he's just been that man this year. With that said, the matchup tonight, we start looking at the check boxes. This is not the matchup you want to extrapolate a ceiling game or to expect a ceiling game on a high clip. So I'm with you. I would lean the first one, but I do think Pascal Siakam is getting fundamentally overlooked for the role he's been playing this year. But with that game being such a slow pace, in a 2v2, I would go with the LeBron one.
All right, 7 minutes left, and then we're staying on for another 30. Obi Toppin is fractured kneecap.
Oh, we're back to the Toppin. I see you.
Yeah. circling back all the way around. I see Pat Smith says EMac Mucinex has DXM in it, which means basically you're tripping balls. I didn't use the cap. I just took it.
And that what they make meth?
I don't know. But my nose isn't running and I'm not coughing. This is a good thing, right? This is a good thing. It says EMac, when that other guy gets old, he's gonna be lame. You're not lame, you're just dorky. Thank you. That's actually a compliment. I like that. What else do we have? Dexter Morthen. I don't know what these things are. No, I think we're pretty good. We're just waiting on these news. But we're just seeing if anything breaks immediately. As soon as we hit that first lock, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the no house advantage versus the house contest. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bet MGM and how you can get 2 free months of Stokastic. You just don't want to start into one of those diatribes if something crazy happens in the next 3.5 minutes here. So enjoy. We're just going to have a nice little quiet time. Do you watch any Hallmark movies for Christmas? I say that because I have tangentially seen like 15 this week because with my wife sick and me trying to not get sick, I just stayed up in my office. So she was in our main room. Nothing but Hallmark Channel for the last 5 days. I swear it's the same movie. It's 90 minutes building up to are they going to kiss? Spoiler alert, they always kiss. And then it's over.
I've been a bachelor for a couple months, so I don't watch much.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
All right, 4.5 minutes. We're closing in here, but then we're sticking around. Yes, it is cold outside. Grimes in single entry. I don't dislike it. Usually, like Randall, obviously, RJ Barrett, I'm okay with. And then I kind of tend to pay down, and I haven't looked at that particular pricing. I tend to go for a quickly or somebody lower. Grimes had crept up a little bit to where he was sort of a tweener. He was just below Jalen Brunson, but above quickly. So I started not playing him whenever one of those primetime slates popped up. I'm ambivalent. I'd rather not play him, though, without more people injured.
I wouldn't want to lock him. I feel like this slate still leaves the opportunity for some value to open up midway through. So I don't know that Grimes in this situation is going to offer me that can't miss score as a late swap player that I don't want to give up that opportunity 30 minutes into the slate. So I would play saying no as a guy that's managing a portfolio, but just theoretically on the guy himself, I understand the play. I'd rather hold out and get some Pelicans.
Producer Ty cited Miracle on 34th Street and then quoted, "It's a Wonderful Life." Chat, just we can't allow this.
I don't think I've seen either one of those, but I know I've heard of them.
See, that right there is my point. You don't know the difference. They're the same movie. It's a stupid concept. No one cares about that bell ringing.
Best play. Oh, here we go. Pick 2 for DK. LaMelo, Trae Young, and SGA. I would take the first and the third. So I'm Xing out Trae Young, even though he had 34 real points in this last game.
Yeah, I have
36.
Melo and SGA myself, so I'm in agreement on that.
All right, sick voice crack. Was that Tyler? That was Tyler talking. That wasn't me.
It was my conscience. If he doesn't have a cam, it's just my conscience. It's mic'd up.
I'm gonna have Davis Maddock and Tyler arguing on a podcast one day. When I have to drive for 20 hours and not fall asleep. Just your soothing voices will keep me awake. Soothing. All right. That voice is worth millions. That must be Tyler's the man of many imitations and accents and dialect affectations. I am not. KJ Martin 100% for single entry and 50-50s? Question mark.
Yeah, I find out all my single entry players are at 100% today. It's crazy.
Oh, I was told there would be no math. How much are you playing? Where do you think you're going to go? When you're playing single entry and 50-50, so here's my rules on that. So single entry tournaments, I like to get a little more aggressive, like especially in baseball, right? Because so many people just put their cash games in there. You get way heavier, especially at the higher in the buy-ins you go up, but even at the lower stuff, you get the chalk is even, add 10% on it to at the lower buy-ins and add 20% on it in the higher buy-ins. Just do something different. For 50-50 is totally fine with it. You're going for the block. You don't want to get overrun by somebody that's on today's slate. It's going to be 40% owned in that format up to 50. I'd accept that and just try to beat somebody elsewhere, because I wouldn't want to get overrun by the entire field by being stubborn about it. That's kind of how I look at these things. Gun.
Yeah. So
did I miss your joke as we hit lock here?
It's a single entry. Of course, I have 100% exposure to.
No, I said I was told there would be no math. No, I like what he said here. He's
okay.
Guns.
Was there a question in it, or is it the declarative statement? He wants to know.
There was a question at the end. Okay. He's doing it. Do we need to talk him out of it? No, I don't like it in single entry tournaments. I'm okay with it in 3-mans. I'd probably skip it in quints.
I think it's the sentence KJ Martin in single entry needs way more context, because you're not building around KJ Martin. You obviously have other guys that are doing the heavy lifting, and you need Martin to be your value. So I would probably request more context. Who is he? Is he letting you get Jokic? You know what I mean? So that's where I would be.
Very fair. Oh, we just got a ownership update 3 seconds ago. That's all off the press, which means we probably got 45 seconds ago. We got player production update. So there we go. So we now have 29 minutes until our next 5 games lock. We're going to use this time, which is brought to you by No House Advantage. Talk a little bit about them. I'm going to talk for a moment here about the BetMGM risk-free promo. So if you go in through our links below us here, and I'm going to talk through sort of how it works, you need to be signed up in your Stokastic account. You don't have to have an active Stokastic subscription, but you have to be logged in as Stokastic, or you're not going to get the promo code. So what happens is you're logged in Stokastic, you click on the link, it pops you up to our BetMGM page. You can also go to on our site, there's a BetMGM page. You read about the offer and click, it says, click here or join BetMGM. You click on that, that's going to send you over to them with our referral code. This is very important. If you hit the back button, if you open another window, if you do something else, you're now not going to have our referral code, and you're not going to get to 2 free months. Okay, that part's very important. The rest is pretty easy. You sign up for BetMGM like you normally would for any other accounts. You can put a deposit in whatever you want. Your first bet is risk-free. There are a few parameters around that. Keep it simple. Do a money line, do a player prop, do an over or under. Keep it simple. But that bet, once you make it, if you lose, you will get free bets back. So it's up to $1,000 risk-free bet. I did the $1,000 bet. And then wouldn't you know, the Oakland game happened, and that touchdown that really wasn't a touchdown before the improbable lateral that should have never happened blew up my under, right? So what else? So I was curious to see what would happen. Well, 2 things happened. Next thing I logged in, a screen popped up, gave me a promo code that I could go use if I didn't already work for Stokastic, that I could go use that promo code and get 2 free months of Stokastic. Once you put in that code, it'll give you 2 free months. You want to give that to a friend, you can do that too. The other thing it did is it gave me free bets. So what it does is it says, what was your wager amount? And it's going to divide it by 4 or 5 to get the biggest number. And then if there's a fraction or a rounding, then that's going to be a free bet. So I had 5 $200 bets. I have a week to use them. I already used one, ended up winning it. I've got my eye on a couple for tomorrow and a couple for Sunday, right? So I'm going to go back. When you do this, I would suggest doing it kind of like this weekend if you want to do it, or next weekend. Pick it while we still have football. And if it doesn't work out, right, it's not a risk-free. It's I'd like to call it a second chance bet. But I got 4 shots at clawing my money back. So I was talking to Gunn a little bit before the show. I've been messaging Greg and Lindquist and stuff about this, different strategies for this. So what I'm going to do is try to get 800 of it back, right? So my last bet was like minus 120, whatever it was. I got it right. It came out of Greg's prop betting channel. So that's the way to do it. It's fun, right? So I kind of I was comfortable losing it, but now I'm like, well, it's not in my account anymore. Well, piss me off if I don't win at least 3 of these 5 and I blow more than $400. That'll piss me off. But what happened? You know, they didn't screw you. Those plays didn't screw you. Stuff happens. Think of how many times good stuff happened on Fluke's breast gun, right? Don't get bent out on it.
Yeah.
No house advantage. You can't scratch that itch with BetMGM in your state. No house advantage has you covered versus the house contest. So we can go over to no house advantage, or even better, you can go to Stokastic, go to the NBA header, scroll down to where it says free NBA, highlight over to no house advantage and click the no house advantage tab. I will drop this in the link. We have done this with we've consolidated all 3 tabs. The first tab is versus the house. That's their props. This is us versus them. There is a house advantage, but we're also giving you free projections with the percentage expected win or win expectancy. The middle tab, the pick'em, that gives you the likelihood of over or under off of their static props, which are like salaries, which make up the GPP. That GPP is locked. But of course, they run multiple every day, and they'll have 3 tomorrow. They'll have main slate afternoon and late slate for NFL. They'll have no NBA tomorrow because there's no NBA, but they're doing a $50,000 prize pool, one of their biggest since the beginning of NFL season. They're doing a $50K prize pool on Basketball Sunday. And then the third tab is optimal lineups. Oh no, this feels confusing. Well, we download those CSV, scroll till you find something you like, and we have mathematically put it in order of all the percentage of success rates against each other and created the most probable optimal lineup. Terry ran the math on this. Basically, every 50 to 100 you go down the list of a couple hundred, you're losing barely 0.5% of win probability. That's nothing, meaning don't pick one of the first 5 or 6. Somebody else is probably doing that. Just scroll down 1 or 2 pages, or just change the order of a couple. Then you won't have to worry about tubes. Now the score could dupe, but your questions won't. We still don't have any news, Gun. 25 minutes before lock.
We confirmed that Austin Rivers were starting. It doesn't do anything for me. Maybe Jaden McDaniels becomes a more interesting click, but I just think that game is a little off-putting, especially considering how wide the spread is. Pause. And yeah, so I'm just kind of staying away from that.
Sorry, I had to mute for a little coughing fit. Get another cough drop. It's why DFS is a profitable hobby. What do we get? Getting all these little going for overlay, looking for all the little bonuses on sites. And I will say, and you've probably seen it too, Gun, this year more than any other year, I've seen deposit bonuses on not on DraftKings or FanDuel, but every other DFS site is running deposit bonuses or some version of 10 or 12 or whatever days of Christmas or whatever. You got to start looking at these, right? And even if it's the smaller site, I'm depositing on all of them if they're giving me a 25% deposit bonus. If they say, hey, play a $25 thing and it's a risk-free if you do this, I'm going in and doing all of those. So I've been doing less DFS over the last 7 days because I want to go after these things because I know they're going to disappear in, probably by day after tomorrow. So you got to know when you're looking for stuff. I like to hang out at Yahoo, try to snipe overlay. You look at the sub-slates on FanDuel, overlay. Ticket contests on FanDuel, overlay. DraftKings, look at their weird sports. Look at things around holidays because they'll missize something, usually a smaller slate or their quarter arcade or whatever it is, or their 20 max contest. The ones that are the less popular, they outkick their coverage a lot. I think that's going to happen tomorrow for NFL in a lot of contests. Eyes peeled, head on a swivel, clear heart, but clear eyes, warm heart, can't lose. I forget that saying. Pure heart. What was Varsity Blues? Somebody tell me. Friday Night Lights. Varsity Blues. I give that a 10. I
ever tell you the TV show Friday Night Lights? I was a football player on that show for a state championship episode.
What?
I wasn't like a role in the movie, but I was there. And we filmed at the old Texas Stadium right before they blew it up. And at the time I was a big Giants fan. I was a Cowboys hater. It was the week after Romo fumbled the snap against the Seahawks. So I got to make fun of him in his own locker room. But you mentioned Friday Night Lights and I remembered that. There
we go. Look, we got Jordan Klein, who was in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. You have Eric Lindquist, who was in quite a few things here and there. He scrubbed his IMDb page, so we couldn't go find it. Some of us know how to use the Wayback Machine, buddy. Slide into my DMs. Other people, send us clips of people doing silly things that we share on our YouTube channel. But Gun, you're famous.
Not quite, but
That's awesome.
I
saw you
from
on
NBC
TV
was
because I
nice, I'll
watched
tell
that.
you
I
that.
watched all that series, so I saw you on TV. I saw your episode. You were
I
good.
would like
Convincing.
to state for the record, the movie is far better than the TV series. I'm sorry, Gundacker. That's just how.
I didn't ever watch the show I was on. I just went there and NBC was like, "Yo, we need football players," and I was like, "I got you." And so I went there and they gave me, the football outfit and stand around on the field for a couple hours and got paid well. Good
That's
stuff.
awesome. That's awesome. And they never said play it again, Sam. They said play it once more for old time's sake or something like that. But everybody says play it again, Sam. Chris Karen says I was in Casablanca. Well, me and Bogey, we hung out. Hepburn. She was a wildcat back in the day. Yes, she was. Catherine and Audrey Hepburn. Very good. Bean Dude wins. EMac fed the animals on the ark. That's the farthest back anybody's got me, a sort of aside from dinosaur talk.
Nice.
Bean Dude, you win. That was a good one.
Okay.
That was a good one. An extra and Gone with the Wind. I helped him choose the drapes. Gone with the Wind. We got 20 minutes left. EMac
Really?
danced with Fred Astaire. Boy, we got some crazy stuff showing now.
I'm so Aaron Nesmith just got rolled out, so that's
Ooh,
topical.
okay. Let's circle back to that. So that means what? It means down one rotation player for Indiana. They're going against Miami tonight. Miami, not quite the same vaunted defense it has been in years past. Now do we get to Jalen Smith, who I was not thrilled about? I mean, slightly different positions, but Smith not quite a wing.
No.
Still a front court player, but he could see some trickle down minutes.
The way that lineup shakes out, they might need a power forward there. Looking at
Fat Chewbacca says I invented fire.
I think it's gonna be between Halliburton's GTD could be between Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson. So I think this is gonna be one of those we need to see who's starting to fill in the blanks here. We have certainly hated, and was nightmares last year. Nightmare fuel was what are the Pacers doing with their front court? Because we saw Terry Taylor slates, we saw Jalen Smith slates, Isaiah Jackson slates, Goga slates. So hopefully this isn't a super troll spot and we put too much ownership, but this is one of the reasons why I wanted to save spots and not lock it up. CJ McCollum
go with Grimes or others.
CJ McCollum is available. Larry Nance ruled out.
Okay. More or less what we were expecting. I mean, we were hoping the other shoe wouldn't drop with CJ. Right. Last night was about the 9th 40-point game of his career. First of all, he was with the Pels. Did you know he's 32? I did not realize that. 31 or 32. So's Dame. I looked that up this morning. I'm surprised. All right, I'm going to build my Yahoo lineup. Got 18 minutes. I'm sure now the next wave of news is really going to start coming in with a quickness. Sore wrist for Halliburton, you said.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
It is not.
You know what else is sore? Everybody in chat who had to be talked for 90 minutes. Ears are sore everywhere.
Yeah, we just
EMac is sore.
So here's what if we were to lose Halliburton, some of you guys might be like me, sitting on a lot of Alvarado. Maybe we diversify some of that Alvarado into McConnell if we trade Halliburton for McCollum there. So something to keep an eye on.
All right. I'm going to crunch the old optimal Yahoo that doesn't have the first two games. Oops, that's not Yahoo. That is FanDuel because I have FanDuel open. Go back and fix that. So talk about the plays with Nance out. Same thing as last night. The wings do better. You're gonna, there's trickle down is not the right word, but you're gonna see Trey Murphy. You're gonna see Jones. They're gonna get a little tidbit, a little cookie, as one fast Eddie Fear used to say. As long as Joe Val stays trouble, and or if this is a good closing lineup situation for him, he's probably the biggest beneficiary, but you still got to get two things right. Game's got to be close, and he's got to be the one tabbed to go in. But I think that's an interesting option, but it's a 14 game slate.
And
Najee Marshall. Thank you, Najee Marshall.
And get to some CJ McCollum. I think many people, maybe like me, were waiting on hopeful news that it would be out. Well, now he's just in a fantastic spot as a guy that's going to absorb a lot of usage without Zion, without Ingram. So I do like the thought of McCollum. We saw what he could do last night. And then you mentioned Jonas Valanciunas. I think he's a massive points per minute and now points per dollar play. Now that you take out some of the rotational front court pieces there. So at 6,300 on DraftKings, he's one of those guys that can legitimately offer you 40, 50 fantasy points in this matchup. Last night he played just 26 minutes, but that coincided with 5 fouls. If he could stay out of foul trouble against Pakusevsky and which is not a guy that isn't involved. I think he's another guy that could absolutely be a must at the end of the night when all things shook out. So I still am there on the Pelican stack, but now we just added McCollum into the mix, and now with Nance being down, I do like J-Val that much more. And then if you want some value, even though he's center only on DK, Guillermo Hernan-Gomez has always been a permanent monster. 22 minutes last night. Also had 5 fouls in those minutes. So maybe he has a couple left on the table if he can stay out of foul trouble. At bare bones mint price on DraftKings, he could legitimately 8 to 12x his price point in this spot. So still a fantastic source of value are the Pelicans, just maybe a different avenue with maybe a guy like Jose Alvarado not being as lucrative as maybe he could have been. And then I'm fine with pivoting some of that into like we mentioned, some maybe McConnell, depending on how the Pacers roll out, if Halliburton is down.
The frightening thing for me on Yahoo is it's taken out the move now with New Orleans has taken me off of, wait for it, Joker. It's putting me on Thomas Bryant along with Sabonis, giving me LeBron, and I think I can get Ball in the lineup. But the hard part is if I go with Ball, then I lose one of Brunson or CJ McConnell, but it gets me off of Noel. I'm not what's your thoughts on Jalen Noel? He's $10 minimum on Yahoo. He is, and we know Anderson, and what is Jalen Noel is, he's 44 on DK. That's a neutral price, but he does have 2 position eligibility. Yes, Nance is out for those asking.
He projects better than my gut. Like some,
and that's where I am as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me just type this in real quick. The nice thing about Yahoo is you can go, they've set it up that if you just type in the player's name in, you guys will love this. They did this, I think Adam Scherer was the one that pushed them to do this like 4 years ago. If you type in the player in the search bar, as soon as the player you want to add to your lineup is at the top, you hit enter, it puts them in the lineup at the first available position. Once I start doing that on Yahoo and I go to the other sites, I try to do that on all the other sites and they don't have that functionality. Just saying. Another trick I learned if you're in Fantasy Cruncher and you're trying to click or unclick a bunch of players, if you just hold down the button, you can either drag it down and it'll uncheck or it'll check everybody. It doesn't do that for the locks, but it'll do that for the checks. This is like old man knowledge. This is the key stuff. Right, Gun?
Yeah. People are asking about Chris Duarte. I think the Pacers are one of those teams that have an unfortunate range of outcomes in the starting lineup. I don't feel as confident projecting who this, if that. I do think that no matter what, TJ McConnell is somebody that I bake into 25 to 32 minutes if Halliburton was down. And then the other one is I don't quite know who's filling in for the Nesmith absence, because it could be one of at least 3. I would guess either Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith, but that's a guess.
And you could see Mathurin get more minutes. There's a lot of ways they could go.
Yeah, hopefully they drop that soon.
All right. Damn it. Now I'm stuck with KJ Martin. KJ Martin or Najee Marshall. Who do you like? Who you got?
Probably Marshall. Marshall 25 minutes last night. His per minute production not great. Shot volume not great.
KJ Martin, it is. What else? They're gonna make the lineup. It's like I gotta get back to reading chat here, right? We gotta keep the show going. Bumpity bump. Any news on Kristaps Porzingis? No. Have that. That is going to be. Is that the late game or is it the second to last game? That is the last game at night at 10:30. I don't think we'll have that news for that. Embiid is breaking the slate apparently. So apparently I just don't even need to upload my lineups gun. I've already lost.
I mean, he typically play like the whole first quarter? And
yes.
So
up to 11 minutes usually.
Yeah, not too.
It's the Gortat, right? His first rotation, he was a god. 9 minutes, he'd come out with 7 points and 6 assists, or 6 rebounds and 2 assists, and that's about what he'd have at the end of the third quarter. The Gortat, those were the days.
I'm so unless I'm behind, I see 7 minutes, 13.5 fantasy points. That's not really crazy.
No. That's 2 per minute, and he's going to play 46 minutes. So he's going to have almost 100 fantasy points. You got to project this out.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you don't know how that works.
Trey Jones is on the Spurs point guard. Trey Jones to 6,500. He's looking more like a problem than Embiid right now. But I have a little bit of Embiid. Like I said, I was on those stud guys, but I imagine that was maybe more satire than.
All right, we just got the uploaded projections with the most recent news across the board. So let's see. Could I say Kawhi's at the same points? Now Kawhi's minutes may not quite be there, but he's coming along. For those of you that have him in season-long leagues and get daily transactions.
Yeah, I think we're done worrying about his minutes. We saw him play
more back-to-backs is the one I'm worried about.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's get rid of the 7 o'clock games. And I'm just gonna. It's the holiday season. I'm gonna take my cues from Carrie Underwood.
Are you ready for some football?
Nope. Jesus, take the wheel.
Oh, okay. Hey, it's a banger too.
Yeah. So let's have some fun, Gun. I'm gonna make 100 lineups here. Everybody that's left, we're projecting for the highest player on DK for 35%. I haven't uploaded that. I'm going to set my player cap at 50. Randomness, let's go 50. Nope, 40. 4,900 on my salary cap. I'm going to say I want what do you think the winning lineup, the optimal lineup is tonight? If I hit 280, will I be able to run 100 lineups? Let's go 280. And Jesus is taking the wheel. 100 lineups. Let's see how many it makes. Oh, Guillermo Hernan-Gomez popping at the top. There's Jalen Smith, Jalen Noel, Herb Jones, LeBron clicking up quickly. No, he is overtaken by 3 Jalens, Brunson, Brown, and why is Jalen Brown? Oh, that game didn't start. There's a lot of Jalens coming up tonight, and now Jaden. All right, 55 teams. We do one more crunch. This is going to be awesome, Con. Yeah. I have 90% Guillermo Hernan-Gomez. What goes wrong?
I mean, he's literally free. Oh, maybe not literally, but you get it.
If I get him. All right. So, and it's that one capped out. Perfect. It capped out at 100 total. Oh, this could not be better. Let's get rid of 1 Guillermo lineup, 2 Guillermo lineups. Now I have got 91 Guillermo, 91 Jalen Smith, 77 Jalen Noel. It's going to be fun. This is an all or nothing night. I'm wishing I didn't play. Here we go.
Yeah, 14 games are just, they can get overwhelming. I think we're pacing pretty well. There's not as much news as there sure could be.
I think it helps that everybody gets a whole bunch of days off, so they're trying not to front load anybody's rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's my expectation.
Yeah.
Ooh. I almost built those in Yahoo and not DK. That would have been a mess when I went to upload these. All right, let's get these uploaded. See if we have any other questions in chat. We have 7 minutes till we get to lock. We mentioned that you can get 3 free days of Stokastic Premium by going into the link below us. That is on the NBA version. Main qualifier, you can't already be a Stokastic membership. Otherwise, check us out for 3 days. You can get 2 free months of BetMGM. If you have not yet signed up for BetMGM, be logged into your Stokastic account. You do not have to have an active Stokastic membership, but if you come in through us and go to our page and going through one of our BetMGM links, it will give you the referral code onto your URL automatically behind the scenes to get you the promo code that they're going to send you for 2 free months. If you don't do exactly that, you're not going to get our promo code. BetMGM is going to get you without a referral. Guess what? They got you. They don't want to give you anything other than a risk-free $1,000 bet. So you can get 2 free months. Back to chat. What do we got? 35th on the big college football tournament because MC.
Oh my God.
Give me some good vibes.
They were hyping up Fultz, and he just went to the locker room. Chat, we jinxed him.
EMac sold whenever he takes a selfie. It turns out black and white. Not bad. Steve McGee, I need to go see how I'm doing. I did a few of the low-dollar early contests. Matt Kajewski's been fire with college football and college basketball. Nope. I had a whole bunch of early game stacks, so I had like 10x for most of that game. And then everybody else had the rest of their players, and I had 2 players per lineup. So that did not turn out in my favor. It does look like I will turn a small profit on college football. Oh, yeah. CFP college football. The college basketball, a lot of fun there. We got showdowns on DK. You got FanDuel, and you got DraftKings doing the contest. And then you also get the projections. They give out all the stats there and go up against No House Advantage in the versus the house. You can go on to Prize Picks and you can go against them. That's a nice thing to get for the college basketball. One other thing, listen closely. Fantasy Cruncher does not charge for college football or college basketball because they are not loading any sort of projections into their system. They just put 5 points for every player. They've made it free for you to try out. Now, is that any good for you? If you don't, they have 5 points per player? No. But if you want to jump in, get a little Stokastic action here and go run a Fantasy Cruncher if you don't already have it or you don't have that particular sport, that would be a way to do it on a bargain. We're going to do some extreme couponing with me one of these days. DFS couponing. I don't get the paper anymore. No more coupons.
I thought you'd be hanging on to that one. Like there's some people they just
been
like
a little over 10 years since we last got a paper. Whittled it down to Sunday only, but the news is so freaking old by the time you get it.
Mm-hmm.
I was only using it for coupons and for the comic page. That was it. But the Washington Post had a big old fat comics page. That was fun. So did the Seattle Times, but I obviously live in Washington, D.C. metro area now. Does McCollum's availability change the Alvarado projection? Well, yeah, it's going to tamp it down, but he's still going to be kind of the number 2 guard and potentially get some trickle down minutes. So I don't think it destroys him, but he becomes more of a secondary play rather than a smash. Sorry, I'm in the coffee.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Alvarado still should be in line for 20-25 minutes, still a positive matchup. So I'm not going to completely abandon ship on Alvarado, but I probably had more than I definitely had more than I'm ending up with now based on McCollum being active. And then, like I said, if you are locked into a lot of Alvarado, hold out hope for McConnell if we do get Halliburton news with him being questionable still with their wrist. There's our.
All right, sorry, I'm back. I had somebody listed as being out, and then it looked like I hadn't uploaded my lineups. I just hadn't refreshed the page. Whew. That would have been no bueno.
Yeah,
there may have been tears on here, and not by Lindquist. The hashtag Team Eric. Where are you at, buddy? Where are you at?
Mm-hmm.
So Jordan Klein has refused to do any more shows with me, so they have to put Tyler or Lawrence on with me. True story.
Are we allowed to talk about this, or is this?
Yeah, well, it's just there's some bad blood there. There's some bad blood.
I can't tell if I'm being trolled right now.
It happens. Well, it's an East Coast West Coast thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right. I mean, now we were okay when he was in the Windy City, but then he heads out to LA, lives by that marina, hobnobs with all the smart people. Gotta keep it real as I sit here in my DK Christmas sweater, sipping on the Mucinex Fast Max.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is an all-timer. Fultz's return to the bench. Also,
who faded Bobo? Oh,
yeah. So somebody did ask about Bobo.
Oops. There's always 3 per show where this happens, right?
Yeah, and then if you're chasing James Harden assists, he's already at 6 assists through 8 minutes of gameplay. So I think 9.5. We discussed that on.
We talked about that. That was the No House Advantage player prop, or I think that was both the player prop and the and in their No House Advantage contest. Never fade Bobo on Bobo night. Did not realize it was Bobo night.
Me, Bobo, Eugene.
You should never fade Marcin Gortat on Polish Heritage Night. That was true.
I swear they had those like once a week when I was playing. Those are good times, man.
It was good. It was good. And then when he went to the Clippers, they even did one. It was a thing in DC. They have obviously nation's capital, all of that. So they have like I'm Armenian, and they have like huge contingencies of a variety of different European and African and South American ethnicity groups around here. So there's always doing something fun. But they had a huge group. Like they would sell out like a block of 1,000 tickets for Polish Heritage Night. It's pretty cool. And then Gortat would get up and say something before the game and do all. I was never at one of the games, but I'd watch the broadcast, and they do it before the shows or before the game started. And it was pretty cool. And he'd say part of his address in Polish and then part of it in English. It was a lot of fun.
Bobo is 5 for 6 and 2 for 2 from 3.
Geriatic brought Fultz back from the bathroom. How do we know he was in the bathroom? There's a little piece of toilet paper stuck on his shoe. You can see it on the replay there as he walks back to the bench. People have said. I've learned that's all we need. And that's now the truth here, Gun. You know what the truth is? It's 7:30. My tired voice has been talking for 90 minutes, nay, 2 hours. Poor Guns had to hear it for 2 hours. So I'm gonna have some soup, and then I'm going to take the nighttime Mucinex, and I'm going to bed. So we're gonna miss everybody, but do tune in tomorrow. We have everything coming back for Saturday NFL football. Full slate is tomorrow. We're starting at 9:00. The usual shows. Greg Ehrenberg, Neil Orfield. Cast of characters is going to be a little different because of the holidays. Chris Spags coming on for the deeper dive with Ben Rossa and and Alex Baker, and then Lindy and Matt Kajeski are going to take you up to the lock. So we're still going to have the 4-hour block there. We of course will have on our sister channel the Osmo or the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel. Nick Lepre is going to do start sit. You can go check that out at 11:30. And then I'm speculating we might have live before, like double check that, because since it is Christmas Eve, I'll have to tell. It says tentative there. We will have free articles for it. Is there even a Christmas night game? Or are they just doing afternoon games? This is America. Of course they're doing it, right, Gun?
For what,
just
football?
Double checking here. Yes, there is Sunday Night Football. It's Vegas at Pittsburgh. We'll have free articles for that. I suspect we'll have a show, but guys, if we don't, it's Christmas Eve. But we're going to be back with NFL and NBA Sunday morning on Christmas. I will be joined by T. McBee, Terry McBride. We will be breaking down one of those sports, and another pairing will do the other sports. TBD on that one. But with that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Gundacker out there on social media everywhere. It's just Gundacker. You can find me at EMac DFS. I'm really not on social media except for Twitter. And then, of course, we give a hat tip to Tyler Zander, the producer. With that, gamers, hit the like button. Good luck.